d'accord. Il faut que j'envoie ce message 15 heures heure de Paris.
C'est ça, ouais, 15 heures, heure de Paris. Et puis, il y aura même une version en espagnol
Mhm.
qui sera faite à 16h30. OK?
D'accord.
Ouais. OK.
Pardon, j'informe mes collègues là.
Ouais.
Je leur
Alors,
envoie un
peut-être
message.
pendant que vous faites ça, alors
Oui,
je vais avancer. Mon collègue Sekou Bert est membre du comité de pilotage. Il représente la région Afrique et son ONG s'appelle l'Agence du patrimoine culturel du Mali. Je m'appelle Laurier Turgeon. Je représente sur le comité de pilotage, excusez-moi, la région Europe de l'Ouest, Amérique du Nord. Je suis d'origine canadienne et mon ONG s'appelle l'Association canadienne d'ethnologie et de folklore. Je suis en fait, disons, je pratique certains métiers comme la chasse, la sculpture, les récits oraux, mais je suis aussi professeur d'ethnologie à l'Université Laval au Québec, Canada. Alors voilà, donc nous allons procéder parce que nous n'avons pas beaucoup de temps et on voulait faire aujourd'hui euh, une présentation générale de la convention euh, du forum des ONG et puis aussi vous parler un peu de la réunion qui va avoir lieu au cours de la semaine prochaine. Alors, il y a eu beaucoup de changements récemment dans l'organisation de la réunion en raison de la pandémie. Surtout, il y a eu, en Europe et dans d'autres parties du monde, une cinquième vague qui s'est prononcée et qui a pris une certaine ampleur. Alors, c'est la raison pour laquelle, depuis hier, l'UNESCO et le secrétariat ont décidé de faire une réunion qui sera entièrement en ligne. Alors, on avait finalisé le programme cette semaine, le programme du forum, mais on a été obligé de le remanier ces derniers jours et puis il va être affiché, on espère, aujourd'hui ou demain ou plus tard. Alors donc, on vous donnera un peu plus d'informations à la fin de la présentation sur ces changements de dernière minute qui sont malheureusement liés à la pandémie. Alors,
merci, c'est Laurier.
oui. OK, Bert, avez-vous quelque chose à ajouter?
Non, 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 vous pouvez continuer.
D'accord. Alors donc, notre présentation va comprendre 4 parties. On va vous faire une présentation, mais très rapide. C'est un peu un rappel de la Convention de 2003 et de ses concepts clés. Après ça, on voulait, dans un deuxième temps, vous parler du rôle des ONG au niveau national, régional et international. Vous parlez aussi du Forum des ONG, du PCI, qui a été créé il y a un peu plus d'une dizaine d'années. Et puis, la participation au 16COM, en fait, qui est la 16e session du comité intergouvernemental qui va avoir lieu du 13 au 18 décembre, donc dans à peu près une semaine. Alors, on voulait juste, on espère que ça ne sera pas trop redondant, mais on pensait utile de vous rappeler les grandes lignes de la Convention, juste pour vous mettre un peu dans le bain et puis pour rafraîchir vos mémoires. Alors, donc, présentation de la Convention. On peut passer à l'autre diapositive. Berthe, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Alors, donc…
Je vais trop vite?
attendez, ouais, non, allez-y, c'est bon.
Oui,
Ouais.
c'est bon.
Alors, cette convention comprend des objectifs, des buts. On va vous présenter donc ces buts, les organes de la convention, les listes, le registre des bonnes pratiques, 2 mots sur les directives opérationnelles, sur le fond du PCI et ensuite sur les obligations, les avantages de cette convention. Alors, prochaine, Berthe. Donc, alors, bon, ce n'est pas la seule convention de l'UNESCO. Comme vous le savez, je pense, l'UNESCO est une organisation intergouvernementale qui dépend des Nations Unies, qui réunit donc 195 États membres. L'UNESCO s'occupe essentiellement de l'éducation, des sciences naturelles et sociales, de la culture, de la communication et de l'information. Alors, il y a en tout et pour tout 7 conventions de l'UNESCO dans les domaines de la culture et du patrimoine. Ces conventions traitent du patrimoine matériel, immatériel, naturel. Il y a une convention sur la diversité des expressions culturelles, il y en a une autre sur le droit d'auteur, et il y en a une, la première en fait de 1954, qui avait été créée pour la protection des biens culturels en cas de conflits armés. Alors, on passe à la prochaine, Berthe.
Oui.
Alors, donc, les 3 principales conventions qui traitent du patrimoine, ce sont la Convention pour la protection du patrimoine mondial de 1972. Il y a ensuite la Convention sur le patrimoine culturel et immatériel de 2003, et puis la Convention sur la protection et la promotion de la diversité des expressions culturelles de 2005. Alors, bon, si on compare les deux conventions, je dirais, rectrices du patrimoine, il y a la Convention du patrimoine mondial qui avait été créée en premier en 1972, qui est destinée à conserver les biens du patrimoine mondial, surtout les biens dits culturels et naturels, mais enfin les biens culturels comprennent essentiellement les biens matériels, hein, c'est-à-dire du patrimoine bâti, patrimoine archéologique, et puis aussi les sites naturels. Alors, le concept recteur de cette convention, c'est la valeur universelle exceptionnelle. Hein, c'est qu'on veut protéger tout ce qui est considéré comme une valeur universelle exceptionnelle. Dans le cadre de cette convention, ce sont les experts qui déterminent la valeur. C'est une convention qui attache beaucoup d'importance à l'authenticité et à l'intégrité. Et puis, c'est une convention qui fonctionne avec des listes. Hein, pour protéger, c'est un outil, les listes sont un outil de protection du patrimoine mondial. Alors, si vous voulez, la Convention de 2003 a été créée pour compléter cette Convention de 72, puisque celle-ci ne portait à peu près pas ou très peu sur le patrimoine dit immatériel. Donc, on a senti le besoin de créer une deuxième convention qui porte spécifiquement sur le patrimoine immatériel et qui aborde la protection et la conservation de ce patrimoine par la notion de sauvegarde, hein, des expressions, savoir-faire, pratiques, connaissances liées au PCI. Alors, c'est une convention qui porte sur le culturel et le social, qui attache beaucoup d'importance aux communautés, qui part du principe que le patrimoine immatériel évolue, hein, dans le temps. Et comme la Convention de 72, elle fonctionne dans la logique des listes, hein, comme un des outils de protection. Alors, Berthe, on passe à la prochaine. Donc, on voulait rappeler qu'il y a eu aussi la Convention sur la diversité des expressions culturelles de 2005 qui a été adoptée en 2005, mais qui, elle, porte sur des expressions et des créations individuelles innovantes. Hein. Donc, c'est une convention qui porte sur les industries culturelles, sur la diffusion, qui traite essentiellement de la radio, la télévision et le cinéma, et qui fonctionne selon des principes. Je pense qu'il y a 13 principes dans cette convention qui orientent finalement les approches et les comportements, et non pas en fonction des listes, comme c'est le cas pour le patrimoine immatériel. Alors, on peut passer, Berthe.
Oui.
Alors, donc, la Convention de 2003 pour résumé, vise la sauvegarde du PCI au sein des communautés dans un contexte de développement durable et de respect mutuel. Alors, je rappelle que c'est la première convention sur le patrimoine qui a évoqué la notion de développement durable dans la définition et qui s'est donné comme objectif d'atteindre ou de contribuer au développement durable. Elle fait participer les communautés à toutes les actions concernant le PCI et vise à habiliter les communautés à le faire. Donc, c'est une convention qui met beaucoup l'accent sur la participation des communautés. Et c'est une convention qui vise à renforcer la diversité culturelle et la créativité humaine ainsi que la coopération internationale.
Oui.
OK, on va passer là-dessus. Alors, alors, il y a donc, je voulais bon, si ce n'est pas déjà fait, je voulais vous inviter à consulter le contenu de la convention. Je pense que la plupart d'entre vous l'avez fait. Sinon, je souhaite rappeler que c'est un document qui contient une vingtaine de pages et que je pense c'est toujours important de lire, relire le texte de la Convention. Moi, je l'ai lu des dizaines et peut-être même plusieurs dizaines de fois. Et à chaque lecture, je découvre des nouvelles choses. Donc, je vais pas ici là, faire le compte-rendu, les différents éléments de la Convention. Je vous inviterai simplement à la lire si ce n'est pas déjà fait. Alors, Berthe,
Oui.
allons-y. Alors, donc, les organes de la Convention, il y en a 3. Il y a l'Assemblée générale, qui est l'organe souverain de la Convention, qui regroupe tous les États parties qui sont membres. Et cette Assemblée générale se réunit une fois tous les 2 ans à Paris. Il y a ensuite le Comité intergouvernemental, qui comprend 24 États membres, qui est responsable de la mise en œuvre de la Convention. Et le Comité intergouvernemental se réunit chaque année, généralement au début du mois de décembre, dans différentes villes du monde, selon ou les pays du monde, selon les invitations reçues. Cette année, la réunion devait avoir lieu à Colombo, Sri Lanka, mais en raison de la pandémie, au mois d'octobre, le secrétariat a décidé de la faire à Paris. Et puis maintenant, depuis la semaine passée, en raison là, encore de la pandémie, on a décidé pour respecter les mesures sanitaires de la faire entièrement en ligne. Alors, et puis il y a aussi le secrétariat de l'UNESCO qui aide à mettre en œuvre la Convention. Alors, on passe à la prochaine. Oui. Alors donc, c'est une convention qui comprend des listes qui sont considérés comme des outils de sauvegarde. Alors, il y a la liste représentative du patrimoine culturel immatériel qui accueille en fait tous les éléments qui ne sont pas nécessairement en danger, mais qu'on veut protéger, mettre en valeur, sauvegarder. Il y a ensuite la liste du patrimoine culturel immatériel nécessitant une sauvegarde urgente. Donc, cette liste accueille les éléments qui sont menacés et qui ont besoin d'une sauvegarde urgente, d'un plan de sauvegarde et puis d'une surveillance importante. Il y a ensuite le registre des meilleures pratiques de sauvegarde, qui est un peu le registre qui accueille des éléments, des pratiques du PCI qu'on considère comme des modèles à suivre. Alors, voilà. Oui, on avance, Berthe, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Alors donc, il y a, en plus de la Convention, un petit manuel d'emploi de la Convention qu'on appelle les directives opérationnelles, alors qui, elle, est plus longue, qui comprend une centaine de pages et qui sert de guide de mise en œuvre de la Convention. Alors, ces directives opérationnelles ont été préparées par le comité intergouvernemental et sont approuvées par l'Assemblée générale. Et puis, ce sont des ces directives sont mises à jour, amendées, remaniées régulièrement. Il y a eu déjà, vous voyez, cinq amendements, 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018 et 2020. Alors, voilà, on passe ensuite. Alors, la Convention comprend un fonds, donc un fonds qui est constitué par la contribution des États parties, mais aussi il y a parfois des contributions d'individus, de groupes, des contributions d'ordre privé, si vous voulez. Alors, donc, c'est ce fonds qui sert à financer l'aide qui peut être demandée par les États parties pour faire des inventaires, renforcer les capacités, réaliser des projets de sauvegarde. Et ce qu'on voulait surtout vous dire, c'est que le fonds est sous-utilisé jusqu'à présent. Il y a eu très peu de demandes qui ont été faites à ce fonds. Et c'est dommage parce que l'argent est disponible et il y a très peu de demandes. Donc, on voulait vous encourager à faire des demandes lorsque vous sentez que vous avez le besoin de faire des projets d'inventaire ou de renforcement des capacités ou de même préparer des demandes pour inscrire des éléments sur les listes. Et Berthe.
Oui.
Alors, on passe bon, les obligations des États parties. Alors,
Allô, oui?
Oui, alors donc, les États parties ont un certain nombre d'obligations. D'abord, de sauvegarder le PCI sur son territoire, d'assurer la participation des communautés à l'identification, la définition et la gestion du PCI, de dresser des inventaires du patrimoine culturel immatériel, de verser également des contributions au fonds et de présenter des rapports tous les 4 ans au comité.
Oui.
Alors, les concepts clés de la Convention, on va passer rapidement sur ces concepts clés. Prochaine, Berthe. Oui, prochaine.
Oui. Ça c'est maintenant
oui, alors donc c'est Berthe qui va
passer la main.
Qui va enchaîner. Oui, Berthe, allez-y.
Oui. Et c'est vrai que, comme vous pouvez le voir sur la diapositive, une fois de plus, merci pour votre attention. Il y a quelques mots-clés où il faut effectivement s'apaisantir un peu. Et voyons ce qu'on entend par patrimoine culturel immatériel. Patrimoine culturel immatériel, selon la Convention, article 21, au fin de la présente Convention, on entend par patrimoine culturel immatériel les pratiques, les représentations, les expressions, les connaissances et savoir-faire, ainsi que les instruments, les objets, artefacts et espaces culturels qui leur y sont associés. On parlerait de savoir-faire aussi, de savoir-être, que les communautés et les groupes, et le cas échéant, les individus reconnaissent comme faisant partie de leur patrimoine culturel immatériel. Et au deuxième point, ce patrimoine culturel immatériel est transmis de génération en génération, de façon durable. Il est recréé aussi en permanence par les communautés et groupes en fonction de leur milieu, de leur interaction avec la nature, leur histoire et, disons, leur environnement humain et écologique, et qui leur procure un sentiment d'identité et de continuité, contribuant ainsi à promouvoir le respect de la diversité culturelle et de la créativité humaine. On pourrait y ajouter aussi, au fin de la présente convention, seul sera pris en considération le patrimoine culturel immatériel conforme aux instruments internationaux existants et relatifs aux droits de l'homme, ainsi qu'à l'exigence du respect mutuel entre communautés, groupes et individus, et d'un développement durable. Qu'est-ce qu'on entend par là? Il y a des instruments juridiques. C'est vrai que la pratique, elle est évolutive, mais il y a des instruments juridiques qui sont là pour sédimenter ou renforcer le cadre de la cohésion sociale, du respect mutuel et entre communautés et groupes et individus. À l'article 2.2, vous avez les traditions et expressions orales, y compris la langue, comme vecteur du patrimoine culturel immatériel, les arts du spectacle, les pratiques sociales, rituels et événements festifs, les connaissances et pratiques concernant la nature, l'univers et l'artisanat traditionnel. Groupe et individu. Le plus souvent, c'est des groupes de communautés qui sont visibles sur la base de leurs institutions coutumières. Il y a aussi les institutions civiles qui permettent de les rendre beaucoup plus visibles. Et quand on parle d'individus, vous avez ces individus qui exhibent un énorme talent qu'on pourrait désigner sous la rubrique maintenant de patrimoine culturel et immatériel vivant. Mohamed, vous avez levé la main? Ah oui, d'accord, merci. Merci pour être venu. Selon la Convention, on entend par communauté, groupe et individus concernés, ceux qui participent à la pratique ou à la transmission de l'élément du patrimoine culturel immatériel et le considèrent comme faisant partie de leur patrimoine culturel. Sauvegarde. Comment peut-on sauvegarder le PCI? C'est assurer sa viabilité et s'assurer aussi qu'on a tous les moyens qui nous permettent de réduire, sinon même d'éliminer les menaces pour la viabilité et les problèmes actuels qui font obstacle à la pratique et à la transmission de ces éléments. Les risques sont des problèmes à anticiper. Et pour y aller de façon durable, il faut procéder à un inventaire et présenter les informations sur les éléments du PCI de manière systématique et sensibiliser, insister à comprendre et à apprécier le PCI et aussi et contribuer aussi à la revitalisation, à renforcer les pratiques du PCI en péril. Il y a effectivement d'autres mesures supplémentaires comme la documentation qui reste, si je dis supplémentaires, mais elles sont fondamentales cette fois-ci parce qu'on ne peut pas sauvegarder un élément si on ne le connaît pas. Donc, vous avez la documentation, la recherche, l'identification, la préservation, la protection, la promotion, la mise en valeur, la transmission, par exemple, à travers l'éducation. Qui peut faire quoi dans la mise en œuvre de la Convention? Vous avez les États parties, les communautés, les groupes d'individus concernés, les ONG chercheurs, et les centres d'expertise, et les instituts et organismes du patrimoine culturel immatériel. Parce que, pourquoi les États parties disposent d'un droit légal et les communautés au quotidien, la pratique, ce sont elles, et elles connaissent au mieux ce qui reflète ou révèle leur identité. Et les ONG chercheurs, elles sont, y compris les ONG, les chercheurs, les centres d'expertise et les institutions de recherche, les organismes du patrimoine, vous avez ici un certain nombre d'acteurs qui sont présents sur le terrain et qui ont cette aptitude de pouvoir aller toucher du bout du doigt chaque élément en intégrant la participation des communautés. Il appartient à chaque État, comme le disait notre collègue Laurie un peu plus tôt, d'assurer la sauvegarde du PCI présent sur son patrimoine. C'est mentionné dans l'article 11 alinéa A, et d'identifier et de définir les éléments du PACI avec la participation des communautés, comme je viens de le dire un peu plus tôt, et groupe des ONG pertinentes. Donc, dresser et mettre à jour les inventaires, parce que l'inventaire, c'est l'activité continue. Et chaque État partie doit s'efforcer à adopter une politique générale, de désigner ou établir les organismes de sauvegarde du patrimoine, article 13, d'encourager la recherche, de garantir l'accès approprié au PCI, d'assumer le respect du PCI et d'assurer la participation et l'intégration des communautés. Et vous voyez sur la diapo ici, vous avez ces institutions coutumières. Ici, sur celle-là, on n'a que des messieurs, mais il y a effectivement, pour établir l'équité d'égale distance, le genre, il est absolument important aussi d'y impliquer les femmes, la jeunesse, et surtout les jeunes femmes ou filles et les jeunes garçons. Là-dessus, chaque fois que nous, on a le privilège d'être sur le terrain, généralement, c'est des personnes qui n'ont jamais été à l'école que la communauté nous met à notre disposition. Parce qu'il y a l'école formelle, il y a l'école aussi traditionnelle. Donc, les États parties impliquent les communautés, groupes et individus concernés dans le processus d'identification, dans l'identification active, la définition de leur PCI, la réalisation des inventaires de leur PCI, ça c'est vous avez ça dans les directives opérationnelles. Vous avez la préparation des dossiers de candidature pour inscription sur la liste du registre. Ceci aussi, vous pouvez avoir l'information détaillée dans les directives opérationnelles. Vous avez aussi l'élaboration et la mise en œuvre des plans de sauvegarde pour le PCI et les actions de sensibilisation appropriées. Tout ceci, vous avez la documentation assez très fournie dans les directives opérationnelles. Hein? Les communautés, groupes et individus s'engagent à sauvegarder leur PCI à travers des mesures telles que l'identification, l'inventaire, la documentation, la recherche. C'est juste un sommaire, on a déjà parlé de ça un peu plus tôt. Vous avez la revitalisation, la garantie de l'accès aux lieux et au matériel, la transmission par l'éducation et la sensibilisation avec l'aide d'autres organismes, le cas échéant. Le rôle des ONG, des experts, des centres d'expertise et des instituts de recherche reste fondamental, non seulement au niveau national, au niveau régional et au niveau international.
Alors, Berthe, oui, je prends le relais ici.
Oui, allez-y.
Okay. Alors, donc, alors, on va vous parler des ONG qui sont accréditées, qui doivent demander une accréditation qui est évaluée par le secrétariat et puis le comité. Et puis, normalement, l'accréditation, lorsqu'elle est donnée, c'est pour une période de 4 ans. Alors, les ONG, selon l'article 9 de la Convention, les ONG accréditées ont une compétence reconnue dans le domaine du PCI à titre consultatif auprès du comité. Alors, si vous voulez, selon les directives opérationnelles, les DO ici, 91 à 96, puis ensuite 2767, ces ONG accréditées peuvent inclure ou être sollicitées pour évaluer des rapports sur les candidatures, les bonnes pratiques, les demandes d'assistance internationale, les effets des plans de sauvegarde sur les éléments de la liste représentative ainsi que sur la liste de sauvegarde urgente. Alors, il faut dire aussi que l'organe d'évaluation, c'est-à-dire l'organe qui joue un rôle central dans la Convention, qui va évaluer toutes les demandes d'inscription des éléments sur les listes, mais aussi les demandes d'assistance internationale supérieur à 100 000 dollars US, bien, il est composé de six ONG accréditées et de 6 experts individuels qui sont élus pour une période de 4 ans. Donc, vous voyez qu'au sein de l'organe d'évaluation, les ONG sont en parité, en quelque sorte, avec les experts. Mais, mis à part des sollicitations pour des évaluations de rapports d'évaluation, les ONG n'ont pas joué un rôle encore très important au sein de la Convention. Alors, comment est-ce qu'on explique cela? Eh bien, on l'explique par le fait que, contrairement à la Convention de 1972, la Convention sur le patrimoine mondial culturel et naturel, qui comprend 3 ONG accréditées, je dis bien 3 ONG accréditées composées d'experts, c'est vers ces ONG que le Comité du patrimoine mondial se tourne lorsqu'il a besoin d'expertise, de faire des évaluations, etc. Dans le cas de la Convention sur le patrimoine culturel immatériel de 2003, on a décidé de ne pas limiter le nombre d'ONG et donc de laisser le système ou la pratique d'accréditation ouverte, et ceci dans le but de favoriser des expertises provenant des communautés de partout dans le monde. Parce que je rappelle qu'un des éléments clés de cette convention, c'est la diversité culturelle, c'est le maintien de la diversité culturelle. Et donc, on a pensé, je pense avec raison, de laisser, d'ouvrir le système d'accréditation à un grand nombre d'ONG, ce qui fait qu'aujourd'hui, on en a plus de 190. Et le problème, en quelque sorte, c'est que c'était difficile pour ces ONG de s'organiser, de se structurer, de s'organiser et d'intervenir, en quelque sorte, de façon concertée pour participer activement et efficacement à la Convention. Alors, donc, Berthe, on peut passer à la prochaine diapo, s'il vous plaît. Oui. Donc,
oui. Elle est là.
Oui. Alors, donc, c'est une des raisons pour laquelle le forum a été créé. On va vous en parler un peu plus tard. Mais c'est pour que vous compreniez un peu le contexte les enjeux des ONG dans le cadre de cette convention. Alors, donc, les ONG, dans l'article 11, par exemple, de la Convention, il y a un certain nombre de fonctions consultatives qui sont identifiées. Mais il y a eu, si vous voulez, un petit problème au niveau de l'opérationnalisation, de la participation effective des ONG au sein de la Convention. Alors, on va passer, Berthe, à la prochaine diapo. Donc, c'est ça, comme je le disais, les ONG, les organisations non gouvernementales accréditées, ont été appelées à soumettre des rapports d'évaluation sur les candidatures, les bonnes pratiques, les demandes d'assistance internationale, et ils ont participé activement à l'organe d'évaluation, qui est, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, l'organe qui évalue les demandes. Voilà, donc, Berthe, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, voilà, je peux.
Oui.
Alors, il est important de noter aujourd'hui qu'il y a une réflexion elle est continue. Si elle pouvait être considérée un peu plus tôt, quelques années, comme un peu timide, il est absolument important de souligner aujourd'hui que la réflexion sur le rôle des ONG se redynamise davantage. Comment? Il y a un défi, celui qui concerne la consultation et la participation des communautés et des ONG à l'élaboration des politiques de législation des plans de sauvegarde et développement durable. Alors, il se passe que certes, le débat est ouvert. Bon, c'est vrai que il reste encore à faire de sorte que toutes les voix soient audibles, mais nous sommes en mesure de vous confirmer que depuis l'année dernière, avec le comité de pilotage qui est encore en activité, il y a un certain nombre de lignes qui ont été amorcées pour consolider et redynamiser maintenant ces débats de façon productive et de façon constructive. Et pas de changement de critères d'accréditation jusqu'à présent. Et concernant ceux qui sont dans le premier cycle d'évaluation, vous avez aussi un bilan du deuxième cycle au rôle des ONG à l'ordre du jour. La réflexion sur le rôle des ONG et apport du forum et du PCI à l'ordre, ça c'est ordre à jour. Mais il est important de comprendre que, vous avez le forum des ONG du PCI, les ONG et les communautés qui au quotidien vivent ces pratiques et qui vivent une relation assez très intense avec les éléments dont il en est question. Bon, donc, étant donné que dans l'article 9, même si la présence des ONG est très bien mentionnée, il reste encore à le définir et offrir aux ONG un cadre légal qui lui permet de pouvoir être assez très actif sur le terrain. Et il faudrait aussi que les États partis comprennent cette relation de complémentarité. Le forum des ONG, vous avez de nombreuses ONG qui sont accréditées et qui continuent à se présenter aux réunions statutaires du PCI de l'UNESCO. On a un rôle d'observateur et l'organisation du forum du PCI a un historique ici depuis 2009 à Dubaï. Vous avez 2010, c'était à Nairobi. Vous avez 2011, c'était à Bali. Et les ONG commencent à se réunir et à produire des déclarations chaque fois que le comité intergouvernemental se rencontre. Il y a eu une déclaration à Bogota. L'année dernière, il y a eu une déclaration et cette année aussi, il y en a. Et à partir de 2012, l'organisation du forum du forum des ONG du PCI prend forme. Et il est absolument important de comprendre que c'est une organisation dont on doit voir non seulement la poussée horizontale, mais aussi l'existence dans le long terme.
Alors, Berthe, oui, peut-être revenir en arrière, juste une diapositive. Oui. Alors, donc, je vais oui, avancer d'une. Oui. Oui. Ah non, 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 dans l'autre sens, dans l'autre sens. Bon. Alors, comme le disait très bien mon collègue Sékou Berthe, il y a eu de la part des ONG une volonté, c'est un peu les ONG qui se sont pris en main et qui ont pris les devants, en quelque sorte, du secrétariat et puis du comité intergouvernemental et qui ont commencé à s'organiser elles-mêmes. Alors, il y a eu une première rencontre vers 2008-2009 et ensuite le forum, qui était une rencontre finalement informelle entre les ONG lors des réunions du comité intergouvernemental, ont décidé de se structurer de façon plus formelle. À partir de 2015, ils ont créé un comité de pilotage ou un comité de directeurs des ONG. Et à partir de 2016-2017, a organisé des élections. En 2019, on a créé des statuts. On a créé des statuts et aussi un code d'éthique. Et puis en 2020, le comité intergouvernemental a invité les ONG pour la première fois à présenter un rapport officiellement devant le comité intergouvernemental. Alors ça a été vu comme un point tournant dans la reconnaissance finalement du Forum des ONG comme l'organe constitué qui représente, qui fédère les 193 ONG accréditées et qui permet finalement d'organiser toutes sortes d'activités pour mettre à contribution ces ONG. Parce que la préoccupation de tout le monde, c'est que les ONG, dans le cadre de cette convention, représentaient une grande richesse, un potentiel énorme en matière de contribution, mais étaient peu exploitées parce qu'encore peu organisées. Hein? Alors donc, le forum, je pense, a joué ce rôle et maintenant, les ONG sont de plus en plus reconnues, hein, dans le cadre de cette convention. Alors, si vous voulez, on a continué à travailler très fort cette année pour accroître les fonctions consultatives du forum des ONG. Et puis, nous avons donc préparé encore cette année un rapport qui va être présenté la semaine prochaine. Et nous avons également été sollicités par le comité pour faire une enquête sur l'expertise des ONG pour mieux connaître l'expertise des différentes ONG qui sont accréditées à la Convention. Berthe, on peut passer à la prochaine diapo.
Oui.
OK. Alors, le Forum des ONG donc, organise toutes sortes d'activités. On passe à la prochaine. Qui organise donc un colloque chaque année. Le colloque se tient généralement un jour avant le début des réunions du comité intergouvernemental, donc le dimanche. Cette année, le forum a organisé un colloque qui est consacré, qui va avoir lieu le dimanche 12 de 1h à 4h en ligne et qui est consacré à présenter les principaux résultats de l'enquête que nous avons menée depuis le mois d'août et de discuter avec les ONG des résultats de ces enquêtes. Alors, ensuite, Berthe, on passe à la prochaine. Alors, les ONG donc, participent activement aux réunions. Peuvent maintenant, grâce au rapport qu'ils remettent, peuvent faire part de leurs activités et puis faire des recommandations. Les ONG ont aussi le droit de parole qui est assez limité. Il faut généralement demander la parole et puis dans le passé, on avait la possibilité de faire une déclaration à la fin de la réunion. Ensuite, les autres types d'activités des ONG, le Forum des ONG a créé un site, hein, le site du Forum des ONG. Berthe, on peut passer, s'il vous plaît, à la prochaine. Oui. Un site web qui contient beaucoup d'informations avec des archives qui remontent à 2009-2010. On a aussi, le Forum a créé des groupes de travail. Il y a plusieurs groupes de travail qui ont été créés pour traiter, qui regroupent généralement entre, je dirais, 4 et 20 individus qui se penchent sur des questions, disons, urgentes. Il y en a un, par exemple, urgent, et puis des enjeux importants pour non seulement juste pour les organisations non gouvernementales, mais pour la Convention elle-même. Donc, il y a un groupe de travail très actif en matière de recherche. Il y en a un qui travaille sur le renforcement des capacités, un groupe de travail sur l'éthique, sur le cadre global des résultats, etc. Et ces groupes de travail sont créés. Alors, il y en a un qui a été créé cette année sur le déséquilibre géographique. Le déséquilibre géographique, parce qu'on s'est rendu compte qu'il y a un peu une surreprésentation de la région 1, Amérique du Nord et Europe de l'Ouest, et puis une sous-représentation de certaines régions comme l'Afrique et puis aussi les États arabes et même l'Europe et l'Amérique latine. Voilà. Donc, Berthe,
oui,
passe à la prochaine. Ouais. Alors, le forum a aussi lancé une revue en 2014 qui s'appelle Heritage Alive, qui est une revue publiée sous format papier, mais aussi en ligne. Elle est publiée une fois par année et elle traite de sujets, elle mobilise des auteurs, souvent, évidemment, les auteurs sont des représentants des ONG. Il y a un numéro qui a été fait sur la médecine traditionnelle il y a quelques années. Et cette année, le groupe va lancer le dernier numéro qui est consacré à la musique et aux instruments de musique traditionnelle. Prochaine, Berthe, s'il vous plaît. Oui. Bon, le Forum des ONG soutient aussi des projets internationaux. Cette année, nous avons soutenu un projet et nous allons participer à un projet sur le PCI et les musées qui a été monté par des collègues italiens. Alors, c'est une demande de 5 ans pour un projet de mise en valeur du PCI dans le réseau des musées. L'autre, Berthe, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, s'il vous plaît, est-ce que vous pourrez revenir un peu et parler aussi de la réflexion qu'on a proposée à ICOMOS?
Ah oui, oui, alors, oui, ça c'est une autre activité qu'on a fait. ICOMOS a créé une charte du patrimoine culturel immatériel pour les sites du patrimoine mondial et on a été amené à faire des commentaires sur le projet de charte d'ICOMOS. Voilà, ça c'est une autre de nos activités. Alors, donc le site web, j'en ai déjà parlé, je vous invite à consulter le site web qui contient vraiment beaucoup d'informations et qui est tenu à jour par notre collègue italien Gabriele Dreselli, qui travaille très fort et qui est très consciencieux, qui tient à jour notre site web en y affichant les informations les plus récentes. Alors, on passe, Berthe, s'il vous plaît. Alors, donc, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, le forum s'est créé une structure de gouvernance à travers son comité directeur ou son comité de pilotage qui organise chaque année des élections. Alors, il y a 7 membres sur ce comité de pilotage. Chaque membre représente une région électorale. Amérique du Nord, Europe de l'Ouest, Europe de l'Est, Amérique latine, pays arabes, Afrique, Asie-Pacifique. Et puis, nous avons aussi créé un siège pour les ONG internationales. Donc, il y a 7 membres, 6 qui représentent les 6 régions électorales de l'UNESCO, plus un membre des ONG qui représente les ONG internationales. Berthe, on passe. Alors, le forum et puis organise avec les ONG des ateliers de renforcement des capacités, à développer des réseaux régionaux et thématiques sur le renforcement des capacités. Ça, c'est une des activités importantes aussi du Forum des ONG. Berthe, on passe.
Oui, je peux. Oui. Sur cette rubrique du renforcement des capacités, il est important de mettre en relief le fait que, certes, le débat reste ouvert, mais le comité de pilotage a déjà engagé une logique qui puisse renforcer les membres du forum. Parce que il se passe que c'est chaque fois que le comité intergouvernemental se réunit, c'est vrai qu'il y a une plateforme qui est là, un espace où il y a des échanges où les gens peuvent renforcer leur capacité ou s'offrir une expérience d'apprentissage. Mais dorénavant, comme vous pouvez le constater, et le comité de pilotage est en train d'œuvrer de manière à offrir un cadre durable d'échange d'expérience avec chaque membre d'ONG accrédité. Et comme le mentionnait un peu plus tôt notre collègue, le directeur Jean, ça a été une grosse opportunité qu'à l'université, nous sommes consultés et il a été convenu qu'on se mette ensemble pour produire une offre technique et avec la documentation de support pour demander à l'UNESCO qu'on confie la consultation qu'on est en train de conduire. Et il y a effectivement quelques idées fortes qui ressortent et qui vont en droite ligne avec la logique que le comité de pilotage a déjà élaborée. Et il s'agit d'abord de s'assurer que le travail d'équipe et le renforcement des réseaux reste continu. Et il est évident que quand on regarde sur l'ensemble, il y a quelques pays qui sont légèrement en avance parce que la Convention de 2003 a déjà intégré la loi fondamentale dans certains pays, comme en Mauritanie et en Ouganda et au Kenya. Et c'est vrai qu'il y a un travail absolument important et qu'on peut observer dans la plupart des autres pays, mais la vitesse de progression reste légèrement, nécessite même à être redynamisée. Et donc, les lois fondamentales de chaque pays signataire doivent absolument faire la place pour la Convention de 2003. Et aussi, il faudrait qu'il y ait un mandat juridique qui offre un instrument légal aux ONG et qui puisse rendre aussi les communautés aussi aptes. Et pour faire cela, il faudrait un plaidoyer pour la poursuite horizontale des ONG accréditées au sein des communautés à travers le maillage territorial. Ceci reste important, mais puisque avec la pandémie, il reste que la technologie soit disponible. Donc, ceci nous oblige à œuvrer de manière à avoir un espace virtuel et ne pas attendre que ce soit l'Assemblée générale du comité intergouvernemental qui ouvre l'espace pour que nous, on puisse. Donc, le forum du PCI doit avoir cette aptitude et cette possibilité d'avoir au moins une ou deux sessions virtuelles dans le domaine du renforcement des capacités. Et c'est une bonne chose qu'on a celle qui est présentement en cours, en marge ou même des activités qui commencent. Merci pour votre temps. Laurier, si vous avez quelque chose à dire là-dessus. Laurier, voilà.
On peut passer à la prochaine diapositive. Oui. Alors, donc, si vous voulez, juste pour enchaîner avec ce que disait Berthe tout à l'heure, le Forum des ONG a beaucoup réfléchi, a travaillé très fort pour voir comment ils pourraient participer, comment les ONG pourraient participer plus activement dans la Convention et donc comment on peut faire pour renforcer les fonctions des ONG. Alors, on passe. Ah, je vais peut-être demander aux gens de fermer leur micro pour éviter les bruits de fond. D'accord? Merci. Merci beaucoup. Berthe, on passe.
No he dormido nada.
Oui, est-ce que vous pouvez fermer vos micros, s'il vous plaît?
Caluyan est en train de contrôler, c'est bon.
Ah, parfait, ok, parfait.
Il faut continuer.
Donc, si vous voulez, le Forum des ONG est en train de se développer et souhaite continuer à se développer pour mieux représenter de façon efficace, je dirais, les ONG au sein de la Convention et d'accroître ses services consultatifs auprès du comité intergouvernemental. On passe, je pense que c'est ça le message. Alors, on aimerait terminer cette présentation avec une petite, un clin d'œil sur la participation à la prochaine réunion qui va avoir lieu à partir de la semaine prochaine. Donc, on peut, à partir de la semaine prochaine, pas la semaine prochaine, la semaine d'après, puisque la réunion va commencer officiellement le 13 décembre. Le forum va faire son symposium ou sa réunion scientifique à partir du dimanche 12. expertes. On passe oui, à la prochaine diapo. Bon, alors, donc les réunions du comité intergouvernemental durent une semaine. Dans ce cas-ci, du lundi, en fait, un peu plus d'une semaine, du lundi au samedi midi. Alors, il y a à l'ordre du jour, les rapports, le rapport du forum, le forum des ONG, qui va être présenté en principe le mardi. Le comité examine les rapports des États parties qui ont été déposés concernant les deux listes, liste du patrimoine culturel représentatif et la liste du patrimoine culturel nécessitant une sauvegarde urgente. Il y a aussi les rapports de l'organe d'évaluation sur ces travaux de 2021. Donc, c'est une grande partie de la réunion est consacrée justement à la présentation des candidatures pour les listes, hein, à l'étude et à la présentation et à la discussion sur les candidatures pour les listes de sauvegarde urgente et la liste représentative. Et puis, il y a aussi l'étude, présentation et étude des propositions pour le registre des bonnes pratiques. Hein. On examine également les demandes d'assistance internationale. Ensuite, la deuxième, les derniers jours de la réunion sont consacrés à préparer les travaux pour les années à venir, les dossiers qui vont être soumis pour les cycles 2021-2022 et même 2024-2025. On établit la composition de l'organe d'évaluation pour le cycle 2021. On annonce le lieu et la date de la réunion du comité pour l'année prochaine. Il y a les élections des membres au bureau de la 17e session, les questions diverses. Et puis, il y a aussi l'adoption de la liste des décisions. Donc, c'est vraiment très intéressant de participer à ces réunions. Bon, ça va être facilité cette année par le fait que ça soit tout en ligne. Tout va être en ligne. Donc, on vous encourage fortement de vous brancher et de suivre non seulement les activités du forum, mais aussi, bien sûr, les activités des réunions du comité intergouvernemental. C'est toujours très instructif de suivre ces réunions. Alors, d'autant plus que ça va être en ligne cette année. Les réunions vont commencer à leur heure de Paris à 10 heures chaque jour et se terminer à 5h30. Hein? Voilà. Pour ce qui est des réunions du forum, alors vous allez trouver sur le site du forum à partir de demain, en principe, ou lundi au plus tard, le programme des activités du forum qui comprennent d'abord le symposium le dimanche, où nous allons présenter les résultats de nos enquêtes et discuter avec les ONG de ces résultats sur l'expertise des différentes ONG par rapport à la Convention. Nous allons donc ensuite avoir les élections. Nous avons des élections cette année qui vont… les candidats vont se présenter le lundi en fin d'après-midi à 17h30, heure de Paris. Donc, on vous invite à participer donc aux présentations des candidats aux élections pour les 4 régions suivantes: Afrique, Europe de l'Est, Amérique latine, États arabes. Donc, nous allons avoir des candidats qui vont se présenter pour ces 4 régions électorales. Et puis, l'Assemblée générale, il y aura le lancement le mardi après-midi de 1h15 à 2h15 du dernier numéro de Heritage Live, de la revue. Et puis, nous allons avoir le mercredi à 17h30 l'Assemblée générale du Forum des ONG. Alors voilà, puis après ça, il y aura les groupes de travail. Les groupes de travail vont se réunir aussi pendant la semaine et les heures de ces rencontres seront affichées sur le programme qui va être sur le site du forum à partir du début de la semaine prochaine au plus tard. Voilà, Berthe, on poursuit la présentation. Alors, donc, la participation, ça va être en ligne cette année, donc c'est un peu spécial, mais c'est un peu, normalement, les membres des ONG, pour être efficaces, on vous conseille de passer par le comité de pilotage du Forum des ONG si vous avez des choses à faire connaître, des préoccupations. Donc, ça serait la voie, je pense, la plus efficace pour vous faire entendre. Surtout que là, c'est spécial cette année, comme l'année passée, tout sera en ligne, mais vous aurez la possibilité de participer par Zoom comme vous le faites actuellement. On passe, Berthe, parce qu'on commence à manquer de temps. On passe aussi là-dessus. J'ai présenté en gros le programme du forum. Oui, c'est donc une fois que vous serez accrédité, enfin pour les ONG qui sont nouvellement accréditées, on vous conseille de suivre de près les activités, les réunions du forum sur le site et puis de vous inscrire éventuellement à des groupes de travail pour participer activement sur les différents enjeux et thématiques qui nous préoccupent en ce moment. Berthe?
Oui.
Alors, vous avez ici la composition du nouveau, du comité de pilotage tel qu'élu l'année passée. Donc, il y a Jorge Caicedo qui est le président, Janet Blake qui représente l'Amérique latine, Janet Blake qui représente Asie-Pacifique. Il y a Sekou Berthe ici présent qui représente l'Afrique. Robert Baron qui représente les ONG internationales, Kaloyan Nikolov, Europe de l'Est, Rim Sakir, pays arabes, et puis moi-même pour représenter l'Europe de l'Ouest et l'Amérique du Nord. Voilà. Alors, on passe, Berthe. Alors, vous avez ici donc une photo de groupe. Alors, on avait l'habitude, hors pandémie, de faire une photo de groupe à la fin de chaque réunion. Alors, je pense que ça, c'est la photo qui est de la réunion de Bogota. De Bogota, je pense, si je ne me trompe pas, c'est cool? C'est bien ça?
Non, je crois que c'est l'île Maurice. Hein?
Ah, l'île Maurice, oui, peut-être, oui, l'île Maurice en 2018. Donc, en 2018, à l'île Maurice, c'était vraiment une belle réunion. Alors, bon, maintenant, depuis l'année dernière, on prend des photos de groupe, on fait des captures d'écran des participants sur Zoom.
Caléan peut nous aider avec ça?
Faute de mieux, faute de mieux, c'est comme ça qu'on fait. Donc, voilà, alors, ça termine notre présentation. On voulait peut-être juste rappeler qu'il y a aussi une page Facebook du forum. Vous pouvez, sur le site du forum, il y a une section qui est consacrée aux ONG. Vous pouvez afficher à volonté des informations sur vos activités, des projets qui sont en cours. Donc, il y a un espace sur la page web du forum, une page qui est réservée aux ONG qui veulent afficher des informations. Et puis, vous pouvez aussi nous écrire. Vous avez ici nos contacts. Si vous avez des questions, des interrogations, n'hésitez pas à nous écrire. Je ne sais pas, est-ce que je l'ai dit? On a aussi une page Facebook et une chaîne YouTube où on affiche nos principales activités. Voilà, Berthe, avez-vous des choses à ajouter?
Oh, oui, je crois qu'on a encore 12 minutes. S'ils ont quelques questions qu'on peut prendre ou s'ils ont des contributions.
That's the call for.
Oui, s'ils ont des observations, oui, des observations, des contributions qui peuvent, voilà. En tout cas, on a encore 12 minutes pour prendre quelques petites questions ou quelques contributions.
I think we must start the English session.
Well, it's not. We still have 12 minutes. Kaloyan.
Yes, okay.
On a quelques minutes pour prendre des questions si vous avez des questions.
Oui,
Oui,
bonjour.
Bonjour.
oui,
Vous m'entendez?
bonjour. Oui,
ma
on vous entend. On vous
ma
entend, oui.
question, je suis une association et je viens de prendre un peu le train en route. Et comment est-il possible de faire accréditer une ONG?
Ah ben, c'est pas très compliqué. Vous allez sur le site de l'UNESCO.
Oui,
Et puis, le site qui porte sur la Convention du patrimoine culturel immatériel. Et là, vous allez retrouver un onglet accréditation, formulaire d'accréditation d'ONG.
d'accord.
Et puis, vous téléchargez le formulaire, vous le complétez, vous suivez les directives scrupuleusement et puis vous déposez votre demande. Alors, en principe, vous avez les appels se font une fois tous les 2 ans.
Oui,
Et, si ma mémoire est bonne, il faut déposer les demandes avant la fin avril. Avant la fin avril.
Tout à fait.
Oui. Alors, donc, il faut quand même s'y prendre à l'avance. Les formulaires sont quand même assez élaborés. Et puis, donc, cette année, ça va être… ah non, c'était le 30 avril 2021. Donc, il faudra attendre. Si vous n'avez pas déposé une demande cette année, il va falloir attendre avril 2023 pour déposer.
Il faut commencer à préparer votre demande dès maintenant.
Oui.
d'accord.
Oui, oui. Parce qu'il faut quand même des signatures de vos présidents, etc. Bon, ce n'est pas des formulaires qui sont extrêmement difficiles à compléter, mais quand même qui exigent pas mal d'informations.
C'est rigoureux.
Oui, c'est un formalisme, quoi.
Oui, c'est ça, oui. Ouais.
Merci.
Alors, ben, de rien. D'autres questions? Je vois qu'il y a des gens qui nous ont demandé, OK, des adresses. OK, on va vous écrire.
Kaloyan, would you please make the chat available to us after the end of this presentation?
It's okay?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Alors, c'est ça. Donc, on vous invite à participer aux activités du forum. Ça nous fait vraiment plaisir de vous accueillir. Il y a un très bel esprit de partage, de collaboration et d'entraide, je dirais, à l'intérieur du forum. Et puis, nous avons de plus en plus d'activités et puis des efforts de plus en plus importants qui sont faits pour accroître les fonctions consultatives des ONG par le biais du forum. Oui, Mohamed, je vois que vous avez la main levée.
Vous avez la parole.
Oui.
Mais activez votre micro. Voilà, merci.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Bonjour.
Je suis ravi de vous rejoindre dans cette occasion qui nous est offerte. De façon très constructive, mais je pense que l'idéal pour nous en tant que forum des ONG, c'est d'arriver à avoir au niveau de la Convention la position de pouvoir faire un rapport alternatif, comme dans les autres conventions internationales où la société civile est impliquée. En général, ce genre de rapport permet à la société civile de donner une vision de ce qui se passe au niveau de la sauvegarde du PCI de l'activité menée en général par le système. Il permettra donc à ce qu'on présente une vision des ONG alors que les États présentent leur propre vision des choses. En général, les États vont présenter des rapports qui disent qu'ils ont fait, qu'ils ont réalisé, qu'ils ont impliqué, comme le dit la Convention, les ONG, mais est-ce réellement le cas? Si on arrive donc au niveau du forum, à ce qu'au niveau de la Convention, du comité intergouvernemental qui se réunira très prochainement, à avoir un statut de présenter un rapport alternatif, c'est-à-dire que chaque ONG ou chaque groupe d'ONG vont par rapport au programme inscrit dans le cadre des activités menées dans le pays par l'État, dans le cadre de la Convention, ils vont donner l'avis, la vision de la société civile. Je crois que ça, si on arrive à avoir une position comme celle-ci, on a déjà une position de faire un rapport, mais est-ce contraignant? Mais je crois que l'idée est là, c'est d'arriver à ce qu'on obtienne le statut de pouvoir faire un rapport alternatif qui n'est pas, qui donne une lecture ou qui donne une vision de la société civile.
Merci Mohamed, c'est noté. Vous l'avez déjà dit une fois et c'est encore une bonne chose d'avoir pris cette opportunité pour rendre votre voix audible. Naturellement, il nous incombe de ressortir cet aspect parce que ça fait partie des éléments forts que on a rencontrés pendant la consultation. Et je peux vous assurer que c'est déjà noté et c'était un entretien qui était conduit par mon collègue et moi, mon collègue Laurier. Donc, votre voix, elle est entendue et c'est encore bien aussi que les archives vont témoigner et être aussi notre témoin. Merci pour cette contribution et aussi merci pour le rappel.
Oui, merci. Je vous en prie, merci. De toute façon, cette hypothèse, cette configuration existe dans d'autres organisations du système des Nations Unies. C'est toujours mettre en valeur la contribution des communautés par la voie des ONG ou par la voie du système qui existe dans les pays.
Je peux vous assurer que...
qu'on doit participer tous aux activités qui se déroulent en ligne. J'encourage tout le monde. C'est une expérience extrêmement importante, surtout quand il s'agit de débats. Parce que j'ai participé plusieurs fois à ce type de réunion, c'est extrêmement instructif. Ça vous permet de connaître les formes, les vices, toutes les petites astuces, comme on dit en jargon, toutes les astuces qui vous permettent d'améliorer votre performance en termes de...
À la lumière des minutes,
je vous en prie, merci.
Du président
forum, merci beaucoup, Mohamed. Je pense pour répondre à votre demande, on a déjà, avec le rapport, de par le fait que maintenant, depuis l'année passée, on accepte que les ONG déposent un rapport, c'est déjà un pas en avant. Je pense qu'on peut faire mieux, on peut aller plus loin. Mais déjà, je dirais qu'on a un pied dans la porte. Hein? Et ça a été un grand accomplissement, je pense, de pouvoir faire un rapport, le déposer et se faire entendre. Hein, parce que
je voudrais ajouter aussi que sur la base des minutes de l'activité du présent comité de pilotage, il est évident que tout le monde reconnaît la nécessité maintenant de profondes réformes. Donc, il faudrait maintenant noter cela et s'y atteler à aller maintenant graduellement. Merci pour votre contribution.
Alors, on va arrêter la séance parce qu'il y a une présentation en anglais
qui va
commencer dans 5 minutes. Donc, on remercie tous les francophones qui sont venus nombreux. Ça fait chaud au cœur de vous voir et de vous accueillir. Alors, encore une fois, on vous attend pour venir participer aux activités du forum et puis aux activités du comité intergouvernemental. C'est une expérience extraordinaire et très instructive. Alors, on espère vous voir nombreux et puis à très bientôt alors.
Oui, au revoir.
I want to share you some music from Sri Lanka because we was supposed to be in Sri Lanka.
Well done, good.
1 or 2 minutes, we will see the art school from Sri Lanka.
Okay, right. That's going to be good.
And please make the content of the chat box available to us, please. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all. Merci à tout le monde.
Bon, merci à Laurier et à Berthe.
Ah, même
Et bonjour. Hein?
Bonjour, vous allez bien?
Merci, et vous?
Juste au milieu.
Et Yorin, hello.
Hello.
Hey,
nice
madame,
to see you.
Vous allez bien?
Ça va? Et vous?
Merci.
Thank you very much, Yorin, for doing this today. It's really highly appreciated.
Well, I'm happy to do so for the NGO Forum as ever.
Yes, indeed. And so our friends from the Francophone NGOs are welcome to remain with us if they want, but we won't take it personally if you don't want to stay. So, Riorain, as you know, I'm here as just a kind of extra body. Just call on me when you want to, but you're in charge.
Okay, so I can start already. You don't have an overview of participants, is it?
I mean, as far as I thought you were just going to be sort of starting off, but I see some familiar faces here. For example, Matthew, I see you. Hi, nice to see you. So people who have a lot of experience like yourself in both the forum and with regard to the convention, please feel free to
let's have a look. Maybe some more people will be joining, but I think indeed that as we have only 1.5 hours, that we could start, and if more people are joining, of course,
perhaps we introduce ourselves. Shall I just do that and then leave you the floor, Yorin?
Yeah.
So my name is Janet Blake, and I represent an NGO based in Iran. So I'm the, as it were, representative from the Group 4 region, Asia Pacific, on the steering committee. And Well, I leave it there and let you take over, Joreen, for the moment.
Thank you, Janet. Happy to be there together today. Hello to all colleagues. We are honored that the ICH NGO Forum has organized also this year a welcoming session, an introduction session to the UNESCO 2003 Convention, but also to the meetings of the Intergovernmental Committee and the working of the NGO Forum itself. I will be guiding this session, but Janet from the steering committee is there together with me. So we like to welcome you together, and we will talk with you during this welcoming session. It's good to have an idea of who is in the online room. So I would kindly invite you to start by writing also your own name, the title of your NGO, and maybe then where you are based or where your NGO is working, or what is your country, as it feels right for you. If you are like feeling like the most relevant information is where you are working, that's as well as putting the country where you are living. But then we have an idea of who is here together and what the focus of our work is, because if we do a round, then we don't have time enough to have the information session. But of course, I think all of us also would love to talk to each other. And usually we can do it during the meetings. Now that's much more difficult. Maybe we should open a chat room from time to time. During the sessions, maybe that's an idea for the NGO Forum, to have like chat sessions, to have a coffee together during the meetings in the next weeks. But at least by putting it in the chat, you can have an idea already of who are the other people that are here together with you today. Myself, I am Joreen Neerink. I am the director of an NGO workshop Intangible Heritage in Belgium, working for the Flemish region in Belgium. We are in charge of the implementation of the convention in our country, or at least in the region in our country. And we have been engaging since the very beginning in the NGO Forum activities, because I think it's very important to join forces from the NGO side on the international level, to learn from each other, to exchange, to work on certain topics and challenges that the convention is facing, and that we can share our experiences and expertise to that end. I see that everyone is still typing, so I will not really start by talking on the information before everyone has had the opportunity to put it, but I will already start sharing my screen. Can everyone see the PowerPoint now? Yes, maybe it's good also to invite you if you want to receive the PowerPoint afterwards, or will it be online, people from the steering committee? If not,
I'm sure it's possible for it to be put online. Yeah. It's a good idea. I'll suggest that to Kaloyan to organize it. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
It is going to be recorded on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
But people might want copies of the slides for their own purposes too, so I think it's a good idea to, yeah.
Okay.
Great. Okay, fine. Otherwise, I would have asked to put the emails, but if it's just on the forum's website, that's fine as well. Okay. While everybody keeps filling the chat with the information, I propose, as we only have 1.5 hours, that we go through the slides. There's 70 slides, which is far too much, actually. That's also why I proposed to share the slides to you. Then you can have a reading if you want afterwards. But I will walk through them quite smoothly, and I love having exchange with you. So if you feel like this is too quick, or this is something I would love to learn more about, we're not that many people here, so you can just open the microphone and talk to us and ask what question ever you would have at that moment. So don't be hesitant, and you can just talk when you want. So I will go quite quickly, I suggest, because the first part is on the convention, but the second part is also very relevant information on the forum, the role of NGOs, the activities, on the way you can participate or not participate in the committee meetings and so on. So not only the more basic information on the convention, but also this other information might be very interesting for all of you. But we start with some more information on the convention itself. I will have a look at the chat before I do, just to see how many people are here and do know already. Maybe you can also let me know if you think you have basic knowledge. You have already, you have no knowledge at all of the convention, or you think you have a high level. So if you could just in the chat mention basic, no, or high level, then I have an idea of the way we need to go through the information. I see already one high level.
Do you want to ask for a show of hands from people, maybe? I know people who think they...
Well, it's okay. If we can see, it should be quite quick, I guess. Yeah, some basic already. High and basic. Yeah, that's the colleagues. I see Matti is, of course, high level, and Alexander as well.
And while they were doing this, I just also want to welcome Robert Barron, who's another member of the steering committee who's with us. He's from an international NGO, and Laurie Turgeon, who represents the Group 1 NGOs, was doing the French session with another colleague, and he is still with us. So we have at least 3 members from the steering committee and somebody who pretty much established the whole thing in Lorraine. So
this is wonderful. It's a good company for today. So the most important is to see that there are a few people that are really at basic knowledge. So I think we should take the people with basic knowledge as the standard for our meeting. And if the people with a high level of experience want to exchange during the session, they are very much welcomed as well. So introducing the convention. First of all, in this part of the convention, we will talk about UNESCO and its conventions, of course, the Intangible Heritage Convention, its purposes, its organs, then the list systems, the instrument of operational directives, and then the ICH fund. It's all quite administrative. Of course, it's a convention, which is like an agreement between states parties to cooperate on the international level and to work around a subject together. And UNESCO has this year 193 member states. It has 5 sectors and 7 conventions in the field of culture and heritage. They share 2 global priorities, which is Africa and gender, and overarching objectives. There's several ways to have a look at the conventions in the cultural sphere. And one way of it is to approach it as 3 related conventions, where the Intangible Heritage Convention is one of the 3. And the big brother of this convention, which has been very much like a reference or a mirror, from which the 2003 convention took a lot of inspiration, but as we will see, has also a lot of differences in approach and in accents it makes. So this other convention, which was a big brother, is the World Heritage Convention. The full title is here, the 1972 Convention, concerning the protection of the world cultural heritage and natural heritage. There's also another convention, which is often less well known because it's more like a convention on the policy level, less practical, you could say, but it's also very important, and it's sprouted in the same time frame as the 2003 convention, which is a bit like they are soulmates, you could say, but focusing on different aspects. And that is the 2005 Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expression. So these are 3 conventions which are related, but all have a different focus. And if you compare the first 2 conventions, the World Heritage Convention is focusing on the World Heritage properties, which are cultural or natural heritage properties. And the focus there is very much on outstanding universal value, on aspects of authenticity, and often restricting changes on conservation, conserving the heritage of our world. Intangible Heritage Convention, where we are working around very much, is focusing on safeguarding living heritage expressions, skills, practices, and knowledge, which is cultural or social phenomena, and where communities concerned define the value. So it's not experts, it's not like some outstanding universal value. No, it's the communities themselves who define the value it has for them. We will talk about it later in this session. And another important thing, it's not about conserving, it's about living heritage, which changes over time. So they are related, those two conventions, but there's a lot of different accents in the approach of the heritage itself and the way to go about. When we look at that other convention on the 2005, it's also very much focusing on living practices, cultural practices, but there the focus is on activities, goods, and services. So it's, you could say, like a product-oriented convention, whereas the Intangible Heritage Convention is a process-oriented convention. But of course, when you are working on a craft, it makes products, for example, and the process of the knowledge, the skills, and so on is the living heritage that is behind it. The 2003 convention, where we are together around today, aims at three large objectives, which is like safeguarding intangible heritage within and by communities in the context of sustainable development, which is of huge importance in the context of the Living Heritage Convention, as well as a relation of mutual respect. Fully involving communities, they always come back in this convention. They are at the heart of this convention. And in any action concerning their living heritage and of course, empowering the communities is of first importance for the convention. I see that there is a hand raised. Mohammed, did you want to ask something or say something?
I think his hand may actually be from previous session, Irin. But one thing I should also have mentioned, our technical wizard, Kaloyan Nikolov, who is, without him, we wouldn't be here at all today. So I'm sorry, Kaloyan, I didn't mention you, from the steering committee. Shall I ask about the hand, Godan, or?
No, it's fine. I was just wondering if there was a question which I should address. Okay, but then we can just continue. So a third important dimension of this convention is the dimension of cultural diversity, human creativity, mutual understanding, and international cooperation. This is going quite quick for you, I guess, but all of these will come back during the presentation. A convention is taken together in a text. We often refer to the Blue Bible. Here you see the Blue Bible. When we will have the chance to go to Paris together or to one of the state parties inviting us for a committee meeting, and we meet each other together, and you will see like staples of these books which are there and you can take them. There's also an online version, and everything is always going back to this text. This is what we shared together and where we can orient ourselves about to start our practices and implementing this convention. This convention text, here you can see the content in the rough big lines of the convention. It has a preamble where the principles, the spirit of the convention, you could say, and what came before the convention, what was the reason and the history of the convention coming up. And then the purposes, which we already saw, and we will go or dive into within a second. Important definitions. To understand each other, you need definitions. And then you have like all the administrative parts, which are the organs of the conventions, what can be done at the national level to safeguard intangible heritage, the instruments of the convention, that are the lists and the register. Then there's articles around international cooperation and assistance, the fund of the convention and the work of that can be done through the fund, the reporting on the work that is being done on the convention, and then all the rules for ratification and so on. So it's quite administrative document, this convention. I invite all of you to read it, even if it's quite rough to read it at all. But once you have these texts, you start playing with it and understanding the discussions very much also that will be taking place when you wish to follow the meetings of the UNESCO 2003 convention. It always comes back to those texts. So it remains very important to understand the spirit of the text, and then also the discussion which often circle around interpreting these texts, and also how these can evolve, because we're in the 21st century and a lot of new things are coming up, challenges around sustainable development, emergencies, conflicts, and then the convention gets interpreted in new ways, but it remains a stable text. One cannot change the text itself. So it's like a document forever, you could say. And there's other instruments we will see with the operational directives, which are more like living text, which can change. The convention text itself doesn't change. It remains as it has been set in 2003 when the convention was written and adopted. The objective of the convention, as already said, is safeguarding the aspect of respect, which is very important, awareness and mutual appreciation of intangible heritage. And then, of course, we are in an international context, the whole dimension of cooperation, and also supporting each other, so international assistance. Also important to understand the work of the convention is that you have like three important actors. We will see more actors later on, but three important bodies or organs of the convention, which is first of all the states parties that have ratified the convention and which together form the General Assembly. So all states parties that have joined the convention get like a voice and get like a right to vote, to talk, and they are a member of this convention. Out of this big group, every time there is a group of 24 member states that is elected to form like a smaller body that will take on the daily work, you could say, the decisions that need to be taken quicker. And that's the Intergovernmental Committee. The Intergovernmental Committee comes together every year. The General Assembly comes together every 2 years. So it's like a quicker process and things can proceed quicker. Things can be decided, prepared by the Intergovernmental Committee. And of course, all the states of the General Assembly are also invited to join the committee meeting. But it's first and foremost during those meetings, the 24 members of the states parties that are in the Intergovernmental Committee at that moment that will be talking and discussing. And it's all only on a second level when the discussions has been taken already to a proposal and some ideas that other state parties are invited to join or to add more thoughts and reflections during the meeting. So that's important to understand what you will see if you follow the online meetings. It will always first be those first 24 member states that you will be seeing in the discussions, and only later you will see like a broader discussion reacting and interacting with what has already been discussed and proposed. Of course, also a very important instrument or organ is the UNESCO Secretariat. It's not a very big team. Once you know the people of the Secretariat, you will start to recognize them. It's a very hardworking team of people preparing all the documents together, often also with experts, of course, and with the Intergovernmental Committee for sure, and the Bureau, which is even a smaller group of the Intergovernmental Committee, which is steering a lot of the work. But the Secretariat is assisting the implementation of the convention on the daily level and make that all the work that we will be doing as NGOs, but also as states parties, is running as smooth as possible. Maybe there's some questions at this moment. If there would be, please feel free to open just your mic. If not, I will continue.
Greetings. I have a question.
Yes.
Lilian from, I'm stationed in Bonaire in the Caribbean. We are working on a website that shows the ICH of the island, and we are doing it in 3 languages. Our mother tongue, which is Papiamento, which is a compilation of several languages. You have the Latin and the Germanic languages in there, and Dutch and English. In the translations, we use safeguarding, which is what the convention is all about. But there's also, in Dutch, they use the word beschermen, which is to protect. And in the translations, we always get, we have to be very particular in that we translate well the message of the convention and the uses of words, because we know that we cannot use the word protection that's not used in the convention. That's the point I just wanted to bring forward when we use different languages, that the words in the culture of the country may differ in the nuances of interpretation. And that's what we had to deal with recently. And there is a difference between the two. I just wanted to point that out, that countries do face a little bit of problem sometimes into giving out the right message to the different cultures that we are working in.
Yeah, and languages, of course, often have very specific associations, because I'm also a Dutch-speaking person. And in our region, we have translated it as borgen, which is closer to safeguarding, and which differs from beschermen, the term that you are using. So I recognize very much. And actually, we have been having discussions for 3 or 4 years before deciding on the translation of the word safeguarding. So it's something we need to reflect about.
If I may just add to that, we are working with, in the Netherlands, KIEN, the Kennis Institute for Immaterial Erfgoed, and they use beschermen. So what you are saying is a little bit contradictory to what they're doing in practice. So it will be, we have a problem with them as well into seeing what they have on the website, which is beschermen, and actually is borgen or veiligstellen.
Yeah, I think the most important is to have the consciousness about the interpretation and the way you are using the terms, and to reflect in your own language is how it can best be translated to the spirit of the convention, as we often say. Okay, let's continue. Maybe we can have some more exchanges later on like this, because it's very interesting. So I guess the most well-known of the convention for the broader public is the lists of the register and the register, and even mainly the representative list, if you're honest. But there's 3 lists in the context of this convention, which is a difference from, which is inspired on the one hand by the World Heritage Convention, but which is also a difference from the World Heritage Convention. In the UNESCO 2003 Convention, we have on the first hand the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, also abbreviated as RL. You will notice it a lot, so it's good to remind that this is this list. And which is described in the Article 16 of the Convention. I think we will talk about it later, so I will just enumerate them now and then explain the difference and the specificities of each. The second list is the list of intangible cultural heritage in need of urgent safeguarding, or the USL, which is described in the Convention with Article 17. And then there's another list, which actually is not a list because it's called a register. And this register actually brings together good safeguarding practices, which is maybe even more close to the spirit of this convention, because it's all about safeguarding in this convention and how you can give a future to living heritage. And you can find good examples of the ways this is being done in this register of good safeguarding practices, which is described in Article 18 of the Convention. So as you will see, a huge amount of time of the meetings circle around the applications that state parties, together with communities, make for one of these instruments. And there's a huge overrepresentation of applications for the representative list, which has been a big discussion and which will be one of the subjects at this meeting specific. So that's also a very interesting thing, because there has been discussions for a long time And there's some new proposals on the evolution of these listing systems, which will come up in the debates during 16Com. I see that Janet has opened her mic, so I will give her the floor.
Yes. Jorien, thank you. You read my mind. Just, I wanted to say very briefly, I think one of the roles that we NGOs can play in our own countries is to keep reminding the authorities that we deal with that the Convention's heart is the national safeguarding measures. In other words, Articles 11 to 15. Because unfortunately, many of the states parties focus on the international listing aspect, which has been important for awareness raising. But what's really important is that awareness is raised and then governments take measures to safeguard what they have in their territory. And that second part is often quite weak. And that's where we come in, I think. The other point I wanted to say, if you let me, Jorien, is talking about the Convention's structure, as it were. It's a convention text that is quite light in terms of obligations. We can say there may be about 3 really binding obligations. And the preamble has actually started to become very significant in the development of the implementation of the Convention. So although the preamble does not contain any binding obligations at all, it purely sets out a political context, a legal context and principles. But now we have, for example, a whole chapter, chapter 6, of the operational directives concerning intangible heritage safeguarding and sustainable development. And that comes directly from the preamble. And the operational directives, they have an important role to play in what states parties actually do to implement their obligations. So we see how the Convention text is quite light, but the actual work of the Convention is much more than you see in the text of the Convention. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Jorien.
Yeah, that's very true. And even there's a new layer that is added, and which a lot of work has been done around now and will also happen in the next year, which is the overall results framework. Like an extra layer, we can talk about it later, and which is like a framework for reporting for the states parties. So every 6 years they need to report on the work they have been done. And there's 8 thematic fields there on which to report, and which actually even gives more coaching on the direction of the actions that everyone is developing in their own states parties and also on the international level. But we continue, and we can talk more about all of these aspects later on. These are just some examples, which you will find in the slides, because that makes it more tangible to say. And so you have more an idea of which practices this can be about. We have included a few examples from the first years of the Convention of heritage that has been presented. One for the urgent safeguarding, which is here the collective fishing right of the Sanke, which was under threat at that moment. A famous example, which is the tango that has been inscribed on the representative list in 2009. And one of the first practices of safeguarding that has presented to the good safeguarding list. At that time, it's still called the best safeguarding list. It has been changed over the years, which is the School Museum of Puçol, where teachers are helping children to explore the heritage of Elche in that region. As Janet also already touched upon, another important instrument next to the Convention text, which is quite light, is this ever-evolving set of operational directives. And this is like ongoing. Every 2 years, there's discussions in the General Assembly, after there has been discussion on the committee meeting, to add like a new chapter or some changes to articles about the ways the Convention itself can be made operational, so can be made into practical tools, regulations, activities, safeguarding practices, often in the nation states itself. So it guides the implementation of the convention. It includes all kinds of regulation and procedures. On the one hand, on the international level, on the lists, the register, the fund, as well as this reporting obligation that states parties have to report every 6 years on the work they have been done. And these operational directives, they are prepared by the committee, but they need to be approved by the whole membership of the states parties, so by the General Assembly. A first set of this 2003 convention was ready in 2008. So what actually happened is, first you have the text of the convention in 2003, then states parties start ratifying. By 2006, it was ratified by enough countries to have a convention that becomes ready to operate. And then the states have gathered in the first General Assembly to prepare those first operational directives. And from that moment on, every 2 years, a new set has been adopted after big discussions on what had to change or what had to evolve in those directives. What you will find, for example, is articles around the Intangible Heritage Fund, which mainly supports safeguarding, inventory making, and capacity building. The fund is very important because all the states parties contribute to the fund. That's one of the obligations. There's not so many obligations in the convention, but one of those is to contribute to the fund. Some states parties even make additional contributions, often also then for specific projects or specific objectives in which they hope that the convention can make progress. And other states parties may request financial assistance because they need help from solidarity, from the international community to for example, help with an urgent safeguarding element. And they can do it singly or they can do it together with several states parties. What we have seen is that in the first years of the conventions, very few applications were made. And if they were made, often they were not accepted because it was not so easy to make an application that then was considered as well enough developed to be agreed upon. So a lot of efforts has been done in the past, the more recent years, to make more opportunities actually to have international assistance. So now it's easier to decide on lower budgets. I think, if I'm right, Janet, correct me if I'm wrong, I think until $100,000,
yes, you're right.
Yeah, can decide. So this gives like more play room or space to move on also instead of waiting until the next committee meeting and so on takes place. And for bigger applications which are often related to, for example, urgent safeguarding, it goes often hand in hand with, for example, an application for the urgent safeguarding list and then also applying for some international support and assistance to have a whole plan for many years to work around helping to safeguard this specific.
If I could just add, Joreen,
yes?
that one of the problems is the fund is better used, but it's still not used enough. And I think this is also an area that NGOs can play an important role by advising their government authorities as to how the fund can be used and even supporting the preparation of assistance requests, because many NGOs have that expertise that governments don't necessarily have in their heritage departments.
Yeah, that's very true. And having a good relation with your government, because it's a state party that will apply. You cannot apply as an NGO. It's one of the things that we have been pleading for in the past, that maybe also from the NGO side there should be an opening, but that's music for the future. But anyway, if you have needs in the states party and you can help your government by preparing international assistance requests, this is of course very important, sharing your expertise to that end. As has already been mentioned, so I will go quite quick, the obligation of states parties to the convention are not so huge. It's more like an aspirational convention, inviting to do a lot of things, and there's not so much musts for the states parties. It's more like mobilizing the international community to become enthusiasts to develop a lot of dynamics around these subjects. So, but the things that are obliged is to safeguard ICH on your territory, which is in Article 11A, and always link this to ensure community participation in identifying, defining, and managing their intangible heritage. We mentioned the articles. If you want to have a look, then you can find it easily in the texts. Another crucial one, and which comes up a lot also because it's one of the questions when you apply for example, for the representative list or the urgent safeguarding list, is that it is in an inventory of intangible heritage in the territory of that country. So all state parties are invited or actually asked to have an inventory or inventories. It's not necessary to have only one. It can also be a set of inventories depending on the context of the country. But this is seen as one of the very important tools that the convention has to get an insight in which heritage is out there, who are the communities that are behind it, how can we safeguard it, where are the needs, and the inventories play an important role to get that insight in what lives all over the world. Then, of course, there's what we have mentioned, the contribution to the fund, which is requested. And every 6 years, there is the request to report to the committee, which in the past happened just starting from the date that you ratified as a country and then 6 years later. But there's a new system since actually 2 years now. And now there's like a regional reporting method that has just started. So Latin Americas have reported last year. Europe will need to report by 15 December. Actually, it's a little later because they give some more time now until, let's say, the end of this year. And then in the next cycle, next year, it will be the Arabic region and so on. And after 5 years, we will have like a year of reflection on what have we learned from this new system and what do we learn also about the implementation of the convention, and then start the next cycle, maybe in a little adapted model, we don't know yet, or maybe just continuing, but at least this reporting model should help us to learn more about the way the convention is being implemented worldwide. Okay, at this moment, are there any questions? No. I'll touch lightly on some key concepts because I see that time is passing quickly, but just also because texts are everything. And as we have already been touching upon, some concepts, of course, are translated in different ways or interpreted in different ways in different contexts. I think these texts also serve to give some freedom of action to all states parties. There have been long discussions around the text to be able to also accommodate for different contexts to go and work with those texts. Nevertheless, always coming back to those texts is what we share. So it's very important to see what are the key concepts in this convention and understand how they guide our actions actually everywhere. So first of all, of course, the intangible cultural heritage, which is defined in Article 2.1 of the convention, so at the very beginning. And you could say that the definition that is there in front of you is a holistic definition, because all aspects of heritage come up, also tangible aspects, but it chooses the entrance of the practices, the representations, the expressions, the knowledge, the skills, so all these intangible forms of living heritage, as well as, and there it comes, instruments, objects, artifacts, and cultural spaces associated therewith. So the focus is on the living, the intangible dimension, but it's never separated from other forms of heritage, because very often this living heritage is related to, let's say, a workshop space, or sometimes a landscape, sometimes an urban context, and is very much intertwined with this context. Or, for example, if you think about crafts, it could be related to the tools you use, to the ingredients you use, to the product that comes from there. So it's not separating it. it keeps it together, but the entrance of looking at it is always starting from the living heritage itself. And then very important, always, again and again, it's only living heritage if community groups, and in some cases individuals, recognize it as a part of their cultural heritage. So no one outside can decide that this is living heritage if it's not agreed upon by the people that are involved and practicing this themselves. The second part of this definition continues that this living heritage or intangible cultural heritage is being transmitted from generation to generation, and it's constantly being recreated. So the communities and the groups, in response to their environment, the interaction with nature, with the history, they keep recreating with an evolving context also this heritage. So it's changing. It's a dynamic form of heritage. And it provides them, so again, the communities, it provides them with a sense of identity and continuity. So there's this, you could say, tension between something that stays and goes with us, that remains, but also the dynamic aspects, which is always there together. And it's being linked to promoting respect for cultural diversity. So there's this diversity, this enormous wealth of diverse living practices all over the world, which also learns us about human creativity, because actually you could see intangible heritage as so many ways of responding to the human being on Earth and finding ways of living around the world through our creativity as human people. So this is in this paragraph, and then also a crucial one, and which more and more discussions worldwide come up. I think in the last 2 years, we have seen a lot of them again, or even 3 years. And we always go back to that, is that for the purposes of this convention, it's not like experts choosing which heritage is heritage. No, it's a convention, it's a policy. And this policy takes in consideration only such intangible heritage as is compatible with existing international human rights instruments. So that's like a first screening or selection or approach, as well as with requirements of mutual respect among communities, groups, and individuals, and of sustainable development. As Janet said, this is a crucial dimension. It's in the preamble and it's here. And actually this has been growing through time. You see that this dimension of sustainable development is like a growing dimension. And also the dimension of mutual respect gets more and more important, while times are not always so easy. There's a lot of polarization and so on. And you see that actually this focus in this convention of it's about living heritage, where we work around mutual respect and about sustainably developing our world is core of the work in the convention as well. So it's not an academic selection of what you could see like living heritage in a broader sense. No, it's like a policy instrument working around this set of action that can apply to this definition. Is there any question or reflection about this? If not, I can just continue now. We can have a chat later on. And this was, of course, one of the very important key concepts of the convention. But it's often said about this convention that it's a quite academic text. It's an expert text, which makes it sometimes not so easy to work with heritage communities around it. But one important tool that is integrated in the convention and that makes it more palpable or understandable is the approach of proposing domains. And these have been presented in the text of the convention in Article 2.2, but it's open. Actually, there should be 3 dots below here because it's like inter alia. That's also a concept that is often used in the convention, which just means among other. And there you see that among other domains, that an intangible heritage can, for example, be part of oral traditions and expressions, including language as a vehicle of the intangible cultural heritage, or the domain of performing arts like dance or circus or theater and so on. Then there's the domain of social practices, ritual and festive events, which actually is the most appealing in the broader public sense. A lot of the elements on the representative lists also pertain to this domain, because it's maybe the most easy to connect also with mutual respect and identity and continuity. So it's let's say, the most easy domain to work around in the spirit of the convention. And so there's a lot of them which are recognized. And then there's the whole domain of knowledge and practices concerning nature and the universe, and a domain of traditional craftsmanship. But it's just like a helping tool. So it's not like limited to this. If you feel like pertaining more to, let's say, culinary practices or to sports and games, and you don't want to link it to one of those domains, actually you are free as a community to also say that you belong to another domain, and then you can explain how you see it.
And also, I think it's worth mentioning that many elements fall into more than one domain too.
That's true, yeah.
Not to try to fit it into a single domain, it may actually fit in 2 or even 3 domains.
That's correct. So even in the application also, you can always check more boxes, you could say, and say it's as well a social practice as that it is a knowledge on the nature and the universe, for example. Again, we have some examples here, but I leave that to you for when you receive the slides. It has already been clearly said, I think, but nevertheless, communities, groups, and individuals are another key concept in the convention. And it's like a line of concepts, of course, but it's important that this full line of communities, groups, and individuals is there together as one concept, because it also keeps this discussion open of what is a heritage community that is involved with a certain living heritage. And under the convention, communities, groups, and individuals concerned means those who participate in the practice or transmission of the intangible cultural heritage element and consider it to be part of their cultural heritage. So it's really like focusing on what you could call the core community. The practitioners are very important and at the heart of it. Of course, there's always many others involved, and they can be part of the heritage community. Or the communities, groups, and individuals involved. But there's a big stress in this convention on the people who are really at the heart practicing and bearing the practice itself. Between intangible heritage, as we have seen it, and then the communities, groups, and individuals concerned, there's this ever intertwining relation. On the one hand, this ICH gives a sense of identity, continuity, enjoyment, self-respect, sustainability, often also income generation, and so on to the people that are involved. And on the other hand, the communities create, practice, transmit, have stewardship, gender roles, and the identities that are very much linked to their intangible heritage. So this keeps in this dynamic relation, this keeps going on between the two. And then there's, of course, the core concept of safeguarding, which is, to my interpretation, one of the very new approaches that this convention has brought in the broader global heritage paradigm. In the 20th century, we were looking backwards if we were talking about heritage, and this has actually opened a kind of future-oriented perspective of how can we take heritage from the past and a way forward to the future. How can we give it to next generation? Which is, again, this whole idea of sustainable development. And linking this to the participatory approach of the communities has really been like the very innovative way that this convention has entered heritage also in the 21st century. Janet, you want to add?
Just a small point, that I think it's also in recognition of the fact that this is a heritage that primarily resides in people. And so safeguarding is a much wider term than protection, and it includes the idea of protecting the rights, especially the human rights of the communities, groups, and individuals associated with the heritage, which is another important aspect of the idea.
Great, yes. But what is safeguarding? Of course, in the convention, it's being described through different articles and different parts of the convention. First of all, it means ensuring the viability of living heritage. So making sure that it is resilient, that it can continue. This also means that you try to identify some threats to this viability, which are current problems hampering the enactment and the transmission of the elements. And you have a look at the risks, which are like anticipating problems that are coming up and how you could address these. So safeguarding makes you also reflect on conscious, proactive actions that you can do to give your heritage a future.
And if I could just butt in again quickly, I think it's another important difference between protection and safeguarding. Protection is about threats that you know right now exist or are very likely to exist, and therefore it's quite a simple idea. Safeguarding includes those risks that you think may well be down the line, but you can't absolutely be sure, and therefore precaution becomes part of the way you think, which is therefore about building resilience in the communities.
Okay, great. Again, just like with the intangible heritage, there's some tools also in the text of the convention that help us to interpret it and to make it operational, to see how you can start working around it. Also, again, it's a holistic approach. You cannot just say, okay, we will document ICH and then the work is done. It doesn't work like that, of course. It's very clear, as Janet said, if it's about resilience, it's again about a holistic approach and how can you keep something living and make it future-proof. That demands actually a whole approach and see that everything is interlinked and that you just keep your heritage very active and dynamic and strong to be able to continue. But nevertheless, there are some ways to have a look at, and also from the heritage perspective to have a look at what can be done. And that can be mobilizing different expertises, different actors, also in society to contribute actually to this safeguarding and help communities in doing so. Some important dimensions is inventorying, which is already at the heart of the convention. As we explained, the inventories have been set as one of the obligations. So the whole dimension of inventorying has been quite elaborated in the past decade, so in the first decade of the convention, to learn how you can inventory together with communities in a participatory way so that it represents their approach and understanding of the living heritage. Another dimension can be awareness raising. So how can we make people more aware and encourage people to understand and appreciate ICH, which is, to my understanding, a very much still an ongoing work. There's a lot of work to be done. The concept of ICH and safeguarding is known more and more, but not at all known by the very broad public yet. So also there again, for the NGOs, there's a huge role to keep outreaching, to keep sensitizing, to keep having communication, bringing new groups and target groups to this convention and so on. Then there's the whole dimension of revitalization. If there is a part of an intangible heritage, for example, that has been less strong, then you can just take up an action and revitalize some endangered ICH or a part of ICH that has some difficulties. There's many more, and there's also the whole dimension of documentation and research. Then defining, identifying intangible heritage as a first step. The side of protection and preservation, which also keeps being one of the dimensions, of course. Sometimes you need protection to be able to also safeguard. So this dimension remains also one of the many approaches to safeguarding. Then there's the whole idea of promotion, enhancement, stimulating, also giving funding and so on. And at the very heart of intangible heritage, and maybe this one should be very big on the screen, is transmission, because everything comes and goes, starts and ends with transmission, which is just handing on the tradition by doing it, by learning it. Often it's a very long-term process. Often you're not even conscious about learning your ICH. So this being aware is part of the process as well. But more and more, and this is again one of the newer topics in the convention, we are also starting in the convention to see what can be the role of education. Formal education, but also informal and non-formal ways of education. How can we work around transmitting ICH in many more ways than just the more informal, unconscious ways? And how can you do it without actually touching the spirit of the living heritage itself? Because the fact that living heritage has been passed on for many generations, and often in the context of our globalizing society gets under very quick threats, makes that we need to reflect on these processes in different ways than has been needed in the generation before us. Any questions on this? Not so far? Okay, so in conclusion, intangible heritage is living heritage. Actually, when we talk about concepts, it's also interesting to say that in the convention it's called intangible cultural heritage, but more and more we see that the convention itself is starting to use the concept of living heritage because sometimes there's some confusion and it's not an easy concept, while living heritage is sometimes more easy to use and also to outreach to a broader group of people. So living heritage, it's always changing, it's dynamic. It's being defined, recognized, practiced, and transmitted by the people. This is this concept of communities, groups, and individuals who are the stewards of that heritage. So it's not really ownership, because that's not a concept that relates very much with this convention, but at least the governance, the decisions, the important voice in what happens with this heritage should be first and foremost always with the people that are involved. Then safeguarding also involves assisting communities to continue practice in managing and transmitting their ICH. This can be support from the state party, but also from NGOs, for example, to help them safeguarding. The concept of communities, groups, and individuals is actually not further defined in the convention. So this is a quite open concept, which in any context for any living heritage can be reinterpreted. So there's quite open space there. And states and parties need to involve communities, groups, and individuals in safeguarding their ICH. Okay, no questions now? Let's go to the next chapter then. Who can do what in implementing the convention? There's the whole layer of states parties, which has already become quite clear that they are the first actors in the convention itself, as it is an agreement among states parties to work, but it's a participatory convention. So very quickly, these communities, groups, and individuals concerned have come up also in the text, and as a way you could say that one of the things that has happened in this convention is that state parties have written in the text to give away part of their decision makership, to point out that the communities, groups, and individuals concerned should always be there in every decision that really touches upon their heritage and the way it's being presented to the convention or safeguarded or listed or inventoried. It always needs to be done with the communities, groups, and individuals concerned. But then, of course, there's a whole other series of actors that come up, and you can find them spread through the very different documents that are there, the operational directives or the overall results framework that we were talking about, which is NGOs. We will talk about the NGOs later, but also, for example, researchers, centers of expertise, research institutes, heritage organizations, also category 2 centers, which is like regional institutes working around the convention, and so on. The role of the states parties at the national level is to identify, to ensure the safeguarding, to raise awareness, and to create a legal and administrative context for safeguarding. In the convention, there's a few obligations, we've seen them already, which is ensuring the safeguarding and identifying and draw up inventories. And there's also a lot of encouragement. For example, on adopting a general policy, designating institutions for safeguarding, so the whole development of institutional capacities around ICH, fostering research, ensuring the appropriate access to the ICH. So if you work around ICH, that on the one hand, accessibility for the communities is there, but also to other groups of people. And there is accessibility to the living heritage, ensuring respect for ICH, and ensuring community participation. As you see, the obligation are just a few. There's a lot of encouragements, and actually this list can be longer already, because this is a presentation which dates back from a few years, and I should check to add what has been listed now as encouragements, and there's many more that have come up in some recent years. I think Janet will add.
Inclusiveness, yeah, would be one. Gender equality, or being aware of gender dimensions, that would be another one. Yeah.
So that this is the more evolving part, and as it's like encouragement, it comes up in the operational directives, and new accents, new points of attention come up over time. When we go to have a look at the role of the communities, what is interesting, again, this is of course a policy document, a convention. So when they look at the role of the communities, it's very often related to what should the state party ask or do towards involving communities, groups, and individuals. So there you can see a list, and they should be involved in identifying and defining their ICH, inventorying their ICH, preparing the nomination. So no state party can prepare a nomination for the lists or the register without involving the community concerned. Also, when you develop and implement safeguarding plans, it needs to be done together with the community. And also awareness raising. So when you talk, when you make communication, when you do educational activities around, or exhibitions, whatever, around ICH, you can actually not do it without involving the communities. They need to be part of this process. So of course, then it's also linking to each of the safeguarding measures, and also with help from other agencies. So here you see also the other type of actors already coming up. There's also a few suggestions. So next to the obligations where they really need to be involved, there's again some suggestions in the operational directives, like encouragement to have networks with other communities, or to have networks with experts, research centers, NGOs, to have your capacities as a community reinforced where you need it, to work together with community centers and associations, and so on. So again, there's the part of things that are like more in the obligation field, and there's a whole set of ideas, inspiration of what can be done actually, encouragements of this is a way you could work. But of course, we don't only look at the communities and at the states parties. We are here as NGOs today, and also NGOs have roles in the convention. And we would love to have many more roles than what is now in the text of the convention and a hard way written there. So this has been a process for a long time to reflect on it, to stimulate activity and taking up roles, because even if it's not recognized yet, we can do a lot in many roles around the convention, and to proceed this ongoing role. Introducing the role of NGOs on the national, the regional, and the international level. So first, let's have a look at what is in the texts. Actually, in the texts around NGOs, there's advisory roles at the international level. As you all know, I guess that most people that are here are either accredited, either hoping to become accredited. And Article 9 of the convention is about accreditation of NGOs with a recognized competence in the field of ICH, which can be on committee proposal and by the GA, proposed to act in an advisory capacity to the committee. What does this mean? First of all, you have a whole set of operational directives where the criteria for accreditation are being set. These are actually quite open. quite low profile, you could say. So it's a quite open way of becoming accredited. It's not such a very difficult process to become accredited. And this it's another story. It's a long story. It leads us too far. And I think that maybe it will be one of the dimensions that will be addressed in the symposium of the forum on the 12th of December, where you are all invited. But inter alia, the function that has been described is to make evaluation reports on the listing, on the nominations, on the good practices and the international assistance requests, and the effects of safeguarding plans on elements inscribed on the urgent safeguarding list. And then in another operational directives, it's being mentioned that representatives of 6 accredited NGOs and 6 individual experts are elected to the evaluation body. Actually, if you have a look at what really happens now in the roles of NGOs, these are the main roles. That is that in the evaluation body, advising on the listing mechanism, there are 6 NGOs. And this is the major role that has been played as the advisory capacity by accredited NGOs. So it's like 6 NGOs and about 190, I don't know the exact number of NGOs at the moment, but let's say, yeah, Janet?
Okay, I think it's 195 now, yeah. But somebody else might correct me on that.
So in a huge number of NGOs that have become accredited, it have been even more in total, because you can be de-accredited as well, or you can have a stop of your accreditation. So it has been an even stronger number over the years, but now at the moment there's 195 accredited NGOs. There's only one very clear role at the moment that is there. And that is to support or advise in the evaluation body around the nomination files and the proposal for the register of good safeguarding practice. There can also be the invitation to have evaluation reports. Actually, this is not a very strongly developed one, and I guess that Janet maybe will talk later about it. And then one other mention that is in the official text is that the ICH fund can be used to pay for NGOs and other bodies to giving advisory service to the committee and to participate in its meeting. This is important. On the one hand, it means that the people from NGOs that are serving in the evaluation body can have a support for their work there. On the other hand, and that's very important for the larger community, it also means that a whole number of NGOs that want to follow the live meetings can be supported to travel, for example, to Paris or to the Intergovernmental Committee meeting in one of the countries, to be there and to be present. It's important to be aware of that, because very often you need to be quite quick once the invitation comes for the committee meeting, for example, to apply for also support to travel. But it's one of the things for, especially for NGOs that are in developing countries, that gives you opportunities to join the meeting and to be there together with many other NGOs and join the whole reflection of the forum and of the committee meetings and so on. Then at the national level, there's also several mentions on what NGOs can do. They link to what we have seen already. So it's linked to identifying and defining the ICH in cooperation with also other actors. Then also the committee is being invited to have a look at equitable geographical representation, so that from different regions, from different states, there should be NGOs being put forward for accreditation. So at the moment, there's a huge overrepresentation in number of the European region. And this has been a discussion for a long time. And the question is, how can we make it like a more equitable distribution of NGOs so that organizations from all over the world join this process of accreditation, and so also from giving advice to all the processes of the convention. They should, of course, again, apply to the legal and ethical standards, which is also, as we have seen, an important dimension in all the work around this convention. And then the UNESCO Secretariat is asked to facilitate exchange and information. So I guess the steering committee can tell you more about it. But the relation also between the Secretariat and the NGOs, which has been developed over the years through a steering committee, is an important dimension also to build trust, to build exchange, to learn from each other and see where each other's competences are and how we can reinforce the work from our different backgrounds and experiences. Then states parties are encouraged to include information from relevant NGOs and other actors in their periodic reports. So that's a moment when the periodic reports come up to have also this dialogue, to see what has happened in the field and how can this be integrated also in the larger report of what the state party has done or what in the state party has been happened over the years. And how they can also be involved in preparing those reports. So NGOs are also invited on that side. And then, of course, also all kinds of scientific studies, research methodologies, and so on that can be conducted by communities, but also by NGOs on the value of ICH, safeguarding for sustainable development, which is a quite new addition from the more recent years. But this is a whole set. Then you have the overview, but if you see it in conclusion, actually, the two dimensions that are mostly present is the evaluation reports and then the election for the evaluation body, which are intertwined actually, where the evaluation body makes the advice on the applications for the different listing mechanisms and presents it to the committee to integrate. There's a whole reflection on the role of accredited NGOs, and Janet will talk more about it. I will have a look at my slides just to give you the history, and I think then it's better that I hand over the word to Janet. Since the committee meeting in 2013, a whole reflection around the role of NGO has started. At that moment, the NGO community was quite lively, was getting quite lively. The forum was doing a lot of activities, and there has been a first iOS audit. There's a new one now. That's interesting. So it's like a new momentum where from different sides there has been a look at how does this convention work at the moment, which actors are there, where are specific needs, where do we need to put more stress. So in 2013, there was this kind of audit that has happened. And when four of the recommendations after that audit were regarding NGOs. And it's mentioned that a further challenge relates to the consultation and involvement of communities and NGOs in developing policies, legislation, sustainable development plans, and so on. A whole debate has started then on should we change the accreditation criteria? No, let's wait. Maybe we should first evaluate the first cycle of accredited NGOs, what comes up, what can we learn from it? And then once we were there, we saw that actually related to the accreditation form that is quite simple. There's not enough information, neither from the report of the NGOs that can really give information to see what the role of NGOs can be in the convention, further than the roles that are very clear already in the text. From that has grown a whole reflection on the role of NGOs. And it has happened in 2018 to 2020. And this one of the results that is a real step forward on the one hand, because the forum has been very active, but also because it comes up in the meetings of the committee, and the states party also discuss about the topic, is to give a space to the NGO forum to present actually a report of what has been done in this forum, which is already a huge step, because the official agenda of the committee is also where decisions can be taken. Before we had a speech of the NGO, we had a speech at the start of the committee meetings and a speech at the end, but it was more like an informal moment. So no decision could be taken. It could be inspirational for the states parties, and they could also join, for example, the symposium or the working groups if they were interested in the work of the NGOs. but actually there was no interference or no direct link to the work of the convention itself. So it's been a huge step already that went along with these discussions and with the activities of the forum, that now since 15Com, and so just since last year, there has been really a space also in the official agenda where the NGOs can actually report, and then a decision is taken on that. But I think it's interesting to listen to Janet, who's been doing together with the steering committee a big work at the moment around this subject.
Thank you very much, Jorien. Yes, this is a story I think that will run and run. I mean, it's at the intergovernmental level, these processes move very slowly, and we have to be honest that although we have some states parties that support us very strongly, there are also others that resist expanding the role of NGOs and the forum within the convention. And therefore, it requires, I think what's important is it requires that we can show to the states parties that partnership with us is a real value to them, both nationally and internationally. And I think we're achieving that already. And as you said, the fact that there has been a report from the forum tabled at the last committee meeting, and another one is to be tabled at this committee meeting, it really is a major recognition of the NGOs having a position within the convention. And what we are currently involved in is we have been asked to undertake a mapping exercise to map the expertise of the accredited NGOs. And for this, there's been a questionnaire survey online, which I think we currently have about 83 responses to. And also members of the steering committee have had one-to-one interviews with approximately 65, 66 accredited NGOs, each of us working with our own regions. And from that, what we hope to extract more than anything is to show the range of different expertise residing amongst our diverse membership, and that this can really be a strong support to our ongoing demand, I would think is correct to call it, for greater expansion of our role within the convention. And I think that when we have something like this, that we can really show it on paper, that this is what we have to offer, and that most importantly, the forum is a membership body that can cover this huge range of types of heritage and of communities associated with that heritage. And we are able to reach the communities at the grassroots in a way that states parties often cannot. And I think also the expansion of the work of the convention, for example, the periodic reporting tool that has been revised with the overall results framework. This is something which is proving very challenging for states parties. And there are certain questions that they really cannot answer without engaging directly with non-governmental actors. And so I think our role will also expand naturally through that too. And this is where I think the idea which came up in the chat from Romeo Groth, I think if I've pronounced you correctly, that we should consider, workshops with member NGOs as to how to engage with their own governments, advising to their own governments. Because this, in a way, is how we'll also push this onto the agenda, that where governments see it useful to them at the national level to engage with NGOs, then they will see that it's something very valuable at the international, intergovernmental level as well. But the mapping exercise is currently, the report will probably be submitted within about a month from now. We have preliminary results, which we will share with you on the 12th of December. And some of them are really very interesting, I think. We're learning a lot ourselves. And it really, I think, is very impressive what we have to offer. And this is what we have to, the message we have to get across is that. Do you want to move on? I think we're running out of time. Do you want me to carry on, or are you going to?
It's okay. if you, I think furthermore we'll talk about how the committee meeting is being run and how the NGO forum works. So I think we will manage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Because with regard to the history of the reflection, in a way, I don't want to get into that too much, because to be very honest with you, the important message from that is it's been on the agenda for some time, which is not surprising. It's taking time, and I think it's almost positive, because we would expect to have to wait for a bit. It's not going to happen in a day. And so we're now moving forwards to, I think, a critical period where this is actually becoming a much more of a real possibility for us. And I should mention that in a recent open-ended intergovernmental working group meeting, or 2 meetings held on the reflection regarding the listing system of the convention, which of course is a key issue for many states parties, there was quite a lot of discussion as to what the role of NGOs and particularly the forum might be. Admittedly, it didn't necessarily go anywhere very concrete yet, but the important point is that it's now starting to be discussed in a much more focused manner. And so I think we can hope in the future that our role with regard to providing background information, particularly information related to field visits, evaluations on the ground, and also possibly in terms of a new kind of communications platform that may develop between the states parties and Secretariat and the communities associated with elements, where again, NGOs and the forum are seen to be a very key bridging mechanism between the different parties. The last one I would mention is there's a lot of talk about how we can share best practices or good practices more effectively. And again, it's clear that the forum has a lot to offer in this respect, and that we could also be part of a kind of clearinghouse mechanism for this. So I think all of those are possible avenues for development of our role within the convention. But I come back to, I think, this fundamental point that developing our role at the intergovernmental level very much relates to how we're able to develop our role nationally too, with our own governments. So I think that's all I really wanted to say about this, Yuri.
Okay, great. I think that people who are interested in this subject and who want to learn more about it are all very welcome on 12th of December. And if you want to read the report of this year or also of last year, I have mentioned the where you can find it there on the screen, so you can have a look on the UNESCO website and search for that document on the agenda of the 15COM or on the 16COM and find the document there.
And yes, that's right. I mean, Laurier has added that to the chat as well. Okay. Yep.
So the NGO forum itself, I'm not sure how well you have already an idea of what the NGO forum is and does. So just briefly, let's give you a sense of what it is. So since the very beginning of the official meetings of the convention, we see that many NGOs have been joining actually to observe the meetings. And this was also a reason to start meeting each other. So from the very beginning in 2009 already, so after the convention became operational, NGOs have started to meet, and then from 2012 onwards, this really became the ICH NGO Forum.
And sorry, Joreen, I think also it's worth noting that at least 1 or 2 international NGOs played a significant role in the development of the convention too. They were present at the intergovernmental negotiations, for example.
Yeah.
So we've been there from the start.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, of course. Yeah. One of the things that started from, I think, from 2012 is an annual symposium, which keeps being an important moment, also because states parties and experts and researchers also tend to start to come and join. And it has a sense of starting the meetings because it's mostly the day before the official meeting starts. So people come to reflect, to talk at the ICH NGO Forum meeting, which is mostly addressing one of the subjects that is very important on the agenda at that time, or we hope to become important in the years after. And it offers a space where a lot of exchange can happen and things can grow that are also active in the wider context of the convention. Of course, there's also a lot of working groups. There's a speech, the statement, as we have been talking about now, the report. So all kinds of work that directly relates to the work of the convention, but which is on the initiative of the forum itself. So we try to develop as a forum this relation with the work of the convention and the official organs. And then there's a whole series of working groups, sometimes temporarily, sometimes they have been there and they keep going on around different subjects like the NGOs and research working group. There has been a working group for a few years around the lighter ways of sharing safeguarding experiences, which is also one of those ideas in the convention and the listing discussions on how can we more easily share our safeguarding experiences. Then there has been a working group around the ICT, the digital component. There's one around the overall results framework and how can NGOs related to this new framework and the reporting mechanism, how can we also be involved and how can we contribute, maybe also with an NGO report and so on. A working group has been looking at sustainable development and education and so on. So you see there's a lot of subjects coming up there in the format of a working group. And then NGOs that have expertise in a specific domain, they can join these working groups and contribute more actively. Another important tool that has been developed by the forum is the Heritage Alive online journal. Which often, or not often, which from time to time also results in a publication. It has been resulting in a publication with the help of the ICHCAP, one of the Category 2 centers. We're finishing almost, so I will need to speed a little bit up. And then there's more and more also international projects where the forum is joining the partnership and helps international projects where NGOs often then play a big role for applying for funding and so on together, and the forum supports these processes. And of course, communication, information sharing is a very important role of the forum, being led by the steering committee and has been supported by 2 websites actually that have been developed over time. Capacity building is also one of the topics which the forum has been looking at. There has been one very big training in 2017 with more than 100 participants, but it keeps being a topic also in this idea of geographical distribution.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think we're now thinking very much about that on the regional level, especially with regard to underrepresented regions, of course.
Yes, I think this could be a very good way of proceeding indeed, to have capacity building on the tailored to the regional needs and also the networks that are active already there. You have an overview here, I think, in brief, because the Spanish spoken session will start in a minute, so we need to wrap up. But in brief, you can see that a lot of dynamics have been set up throughout the years with a lot of NGOs taking a role there, to have a working group, to join a working group, to give lectures, to help writing and editing texts, and so on and so on. So we also invite you, if you're willing to be engaged in this whole process, the role of NGOs, and to contribute to the work, please come up and just join this whole collective work around the convention. And I'm sure that the steering committee members present here will be happy to coach you the way you can do it. So
well, thank you very
Yeah,
sorry, I was just going to say thank you for that, because I wrote it in the chat also, really encouraging, people, first of all, to come along and join in the various activities related to the upcoming committee meeting, activities of the forum, but also broader than that, to join the working groups once you're members, even think about joining the steering committee and our electoral group and so on. And, because even if you're new to the forum, I'm sure you have a lot of experience in other areas that is very useful to us.
Okay. So just to finish, I took the agenda here of this meeting. Also the link where you can find the agenda, because often when you're not very acquainted yet with the convention, it's difficult to find your way in it in the beginning. So you can find it there. And here is just the overview of all the topics that will be discussed. And one more important thing is that NGOs usually have a little bit of space to also contribute to the sessions. We don't have the time to enter into the details now, so you can see it here. It's very important to see that it's very structured. First is the states parties of the committee, then it's observers, states parties, and then only after that, sometimes if there's time, NGOs also have the opportunity. We have a tradition that if there's really a subject, we try to do it through the forum. Nevertheless, you actually, I don't think in the online meeting, as it's now an online meeting, sometimes when it's live, we also tend to stimulate NGOs to also have a contribution. If it's really a topic you can contribute to you have an added value, it's good to see that NGOs can contribute. But on the other hand, it's not good to speak if you just want to have a promotion of your NGO. That's not the place to do it. Therefore, we have with the forum, we have a lot of other spaces we can organize promotion of NGOs. So never do that on the spot of the meeting. But if you have something you think this is really important that I share this in the international community, there is some possibilities, and I invite you to talk to the committee, to the steering committee to learn more about that. But if you really have a topic that you think this should be shared by more, then it's better to do it through the forum. And always focus on the agenda and the related debate. So to keep it very focused, so that this relation of trust between NGOs and the convention can keep growing. So I think we need to wrap up. I took 5 minutes already from the next group, so that's not good. But I hope that it was interesting for you, and you can come to me or to the people of the steering committee to have more information on any detail if you wish. Enjoy.
Thank you so much for that, Joreen. It's really a pleasure to have you, an honor to have you doing this. And, you know, we learn something new each time, all of us.
That's true.
And so I just wanted to check whether any of the fellow members of the steering committee have any points they wish to add very quickly, points of information. If not, then I guess we should hand over to our colleague who's going to do the Spanish one. So.
Thank you and bye.
Bye, thanks a lot.
Between the sessions, I will put again Sri Lanka.
Oh yeah, okay, put a video, right. And okay. I'm looking to see if we have Jorge is not here yet, so we're okay for time. Laurier,
very well
hablamos
done, Janet.
español.
Very well done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. That's great. Yeah.
I'm
It's
saying
always
maybe we're
interesting.
going to have to do this one together in Spanish. That'll be interesting.
Hore.
Where's Jorge? Anyway, greetings to the
Spanish.
NGOs from the Spanish-speaking region, and some who are not peers from Spanish-speaking regions, but interesting. So we're just waiting for your session to begin.
Yeah, we had a good turnout. That was we had a good turnout, Janet. It was good. Yeah, it was. I think I'm hoping this is an expression of increased interest for them, for the forum, and the NGOs' participation in the forum and in the convention and so on. So actually, I think, with the new accreditations, we're going to be up to like about 220 NGOs now. We're over 200.
We're going to have the same problem as the representative list too soon. Administrative difficulties. Yeah. No, it's great. It's really great. Yeah. And it seems a number not from your region, which is even better. Nothing personal, you understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So.
Oh, okay. Jorge says he's looking for the link.
Oh, okay. You should. Have you got it on your phone? Because I've only got it on my laptop too.
Yeah. Okay, just wait.
Yeah.
I'll tell him I'll send it. Actually, he can. I think he can get it just in the chat box. Oh no, I guess he can't. He has to go.
If he's not in, he can't.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll send it to him by email because I don't have it.
Yeah, I could do the same. I thought, yeah, I'm the same as you. But if you're sending it, I won't bother.
Okay, here. Is Kaloyan still there? Oh, there's Jorge. Okay. Kaloyan.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Hi. Jorge, Gustavo.
Jorge.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
How are you?
Oh,
well, we were just getting ready to do this in Spanish, you understand.
Yeah.
Me and Laurier.
We're practicing our Spanish.
Yes.
I love your muchacho.
¿Qué tal, muchacho?
Yes.
Hablamos español.
That's awesome.
That's it. There's no more than that, okay?
Oh, no. The revolución. La revolución.
Trabajadores al poder.
Yes.
I know that too. Yes. I got all the right. Anyway, I won't get in your way. I'll say goodbye and let you get on with it.
I was yesterday. We were having so we're taking the breakfast, but we were having this party and we find out the difference between Mexican culture and the rest of the world. Is when the party is just have gone too far, the Mexicans just keep going. It's crazy. I will show you when you come.
Yes, we're waiting for an invitation. Jorge, we're waiting for an invitation.
Always open. And look at the beautiful places in Mexico.
Yeah, show us. Oh, nice. Yeah.
But well, so do we have someone for the Spanish session?
Yeah, I think we have a couple. There's a few people for the Spanish session. Fundación Mundo Espoir, and there's also Pepe Martinez Tormo.
Yes, hello.
Hey, hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, bien, bien.
L'Oreal, can you help me with the slides? So I can just the English one. I can explain it in Spanish because I'm on the phone.
Okay. Actually, believe it or not, I had a bit of a problem sharing my screen. I think you should. I'll ask Janet if she can do it because.
I can, but I wasn't intending right now to be sitting through the whole meeting. That's the problem. I have something else I have to do. So,
okay.
Because if I share the screen, I'm going to be sitting here controlling it, right? Is Kaloyan able to share?
Oh, maybe Kaloyan, yeah, Kaloyan.
Or can Kaloyan control them if I upload them?
I can control them, but I have the file.
I'll upload the file and then you can control it, okay?
Yeah.
Fine. It'll be the English version, right? Because I haven't got the French.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
it'll take me a while to find it. Sorry. I haven't got it. I have to open it, which I don't have it open on my computer. Sorry about this. Just keep talking while I'm doing this.
The thing is that, Jorge, you could also be very original and creative and just do it because you're on site there. You're in the field, and perhaps you could just you know all of this by heart anyway. So
yeah,
you could just present it, right out of the field.
But I tell it with pleasure to my friends. So I'm going to switch to Spanish now.
Yeah.
Mucho gusto. ¿Con quién cuento el día de hoy?
Mucho gusto, Giovanni Arteaga, de la Fundación Mundo Espiral. Hablamos desde Pasto, en Colombia. Muchísimas gracias, Gustavo.
Bien, mucho gusto. ¿De qué parte de Colombia son?
Hola, mucho gusto, María Mercedes Figueroa. Somos de Pasto, Nariño, al sur de Colombia, Nariño. En frontera con el Ecuador.
Maravilloso, pues muy cerca de la Amazonia, ¿no?
Sí, muy cerca de la Amazonia y contamos con 2 manifestaciones incluidas en lista de Patrimonio de la Humanidad. El Carnaval de Negros, el Carnaval de Negros y Blancos de Pasto y el Barniz de Pasto Mopa Mopa, que el año pasado fue incluido en la lista.
Claro. Déjeme decirle a mis compañeros del Steering Committee. We have a couple of friends from Colombia, and they're from Pasto, Colombia. And a couple of elements inscribed in the list from Pasto. So very interesting. ¿Saben si es lista representativa o de salvaguardia urgente?
El barniz de Pasto es en salvaguardia urgente.
Urgente. So they have one element in urgent safeguarding and the other one is a representative list. Okay. Perfecto, muchas gracias. Ahorita comenzamos. Y Pepe, mucho gusto. ¿Tú de dónde eres?
Hola, mucho gusto también por mi parte. Yo soy de Valencia, de España, y somos una entidad que estuvimos acreditadas en el 2016 o 2015, no, 2016 fue. Y es la Asociación de Estudios Falleros, que nos centramos sobre todo en el estudio de las fallas, que fue reconocida en el 2016. Nosotros participamos en la redacción del expediente por parte de la Comunidad Valenciana y bueno, trabajamos sobre todo en el apartado cultural y patrimonial de la fiesta y también de otras fiestas vinculadas con los rituales del fuego.
No, hombre, te felicito. Las fallas son espectaculares. ¿Ustedes lo conocen, las fallas? ¿Las han visto? Les pregunto a mis amigos de Colombia.
Hemos tenido la oportunidad, es maravilloso realmente.
Espectacular, felicidades de verdad, ¿eh? El trabajo de las fallas en Valencia es espectacular. Pues bueno, bienvenidos, aunque ya tarde para Pepe, porque ya desde el 2016 pues ya tiene un rato con nosotros. ¿No has ido a sesiones de la convención?
No, a sesiones de la convención no he tenido ocasión de ir más que en la de 2016 en la que se nombró las fallas, porque formé parte de la comisión que fuimos allí, pero la verdad es que no he tenido ocasión. Sí que en el último año he estado participando en algunas reuniones del fórum y he ido siguiendo un poco, pero sí que es cierto que no hemos tenido todavía la ocasión de poder participar activamente y la verdad es que nos gustaría. Por eso creo que la sesión de hoy es bastante interesante para ello.
Claro, claro, esa es la idea, que sepan todo lo que podemos hacer para intercambiar información y lo que estamos haciendo las diferentes organizaciones, ¿no? Entonces, miren, les voy a platicar un poco de la presentación. En realidad, seguramente ustedes están al tanto de lo que es la convención de la UNESCO, la de 2003, saben que está constituida por una serie de elementos. Lo que vamos a hacer es un repaso rápido de lo que es la convención para que me digan brevemente si tienen alguna duda, y es a modo de introducción y posteriormente hagamos una sesión.
Can you send me the file?
Janet has it.
I cannot get attached.
Yes, I know, Kaloyan. Janet has it. Don't worry. Kaloyan es un miembro del comité, o sea, bueno, me voy a adelantar al fórum, disculpen.
Is it okay now? Because my screen, I can't do anything now with it.
It's I can see it, but it's not able, I cannot move it. So just give me, please.
I can't do anything. I mean,
don't worry, send it to Kaloyan.
So do you want me to send the file? Yeah, I will do. Okay, I'll do that now.
Thank you. Perdón. Entonces, miren, les presento el fórum. El fórum somos 7 organizaciones electas. UNESCO en 6 regiones, que es la región de América del Norte y Europa, la región de Europa del Este, la región de América Latina y el Caribe, la región de Asia-Pacífico y la quinta región se divide en 2, la región de los árabes. Tenemos una séptima que es para las organizaciones internacionales. Las organizaciones internacionales, lo que buscamos es que tengan, me voy a ir alejando, es que ya ven que los mexicanos somos reargüenderos. Entonces, estamos en pleno desayuno. En la sesión, básicamente lo que tenemos nosotros es, el objetivo es ver cómo las organizaciones se vinculan y cómo les ayudamos también a facilitar la participación de las organizaciones con otras organizaciones y con el comité. El comité, como saben, que es el que lleva la convención, básicamente recibe las listas, se las da al comité de evaluación y el comité de evaluación a su vez dictamina si es o no viable que tal o cual expresión funcione. Ahorita se está discutiendo, por ejemplo, el tema de la transición de listas, que es muy interesante. Es decir, la lista de salvaguardia urgente, pues no puede ser permanente. Entonces tiene que haber un momento de transición en que ese elemento pase de estar en un estado de urgencia a un estado normal, a la lista representativa. También está la cuestión de cuánto tiempo debe durar una lista representativa. Es decir, tratamos de que no dure mucho tiempo para que también, digamos, se le dé visibilidad a todos. No es que se le vaya a sacar de la lista, sino simplemente también este tema de que va a seguir creciendo y se vuelve un tema de data, ¿no? De estar almacenando información que también estamos previendo hacia el futuro. Y ahorita lo que está, digamos, tomando mucha preponderancia son las mejores prácticas. Mucho de lo que nos interesa es que esas mejores prácticas pues se puedan también visibilizar y generar experiencias para que personas como ustedes pues también conozcan qué está sucediendo en lugares similares, con expresiones similares, y cómo pueden adaptarlas a su propia práctica. El próximo domingo, el domingo 12, vamos a tener una sesión del fórum, que va a ser un foro. Lamentablemente iba a ser un foro en vivo, pero no se va a poder. Y en esa sesión, que va a ser en línea, que les invito a que por favor participen, se van a discutir varios temas. La mesa que a mí me toca, por ejemplo, vamos a discutir el tema de propiedad intelectual. Hay un grupo de la WIPO, que es la Organización Mundial de Propiedad Industrial Intelectual, que está con sede en Suiza, que está dedicado a conocimientos tradicionales y tradiciones y expresiones culturales.
Okay, you got it. Oh, I sent it too, but okay, fine. All right, bye.
Thank you very much, Janet. See you soon. Perdón, Janet Blake es la representante de Asia Pacífico de una organización iraní, del Jardín Persa. Y Loriel, que nos acompaña, es el representante de la región 1 de América del Norte y de Europa. Él es de Canadá. Entonces les decía, perdón, me cortó el hilo. Sí, vamos a discutir con la gente del INPI sobre derechos de propiedad industrial y básicamente vamos a citar algunos casos. Viene, por ejemplo, una persona del Consejo SAMI para hablar de qué fue lo que pasó con Frozen cuando lo negoció con Disney. Yo voy a tocar el tema de Coco. Curiosamente, creo que Encantada, que es la última película de Disney, tiene que ver con todo el tema de Colombia. Y hay una serie de elementos que tienen que tener mucho cuidado. Lo que pasó en nuestro caso fue que de repente empezaron a comercializar derivados y ya no eran las cuestiones tradicionales, sino eran más bien los elementos que Disney estaba generando a través de licenciamientos. Pero bueno, ese es uno de los casos. Habrá otra conferencia en la semana que van a hablar sobre el etiquetado en los archivos para que se descolonialicen los archivos. Es decir, hay conocimientos tradicionales, información que se recuperó de forma etnográfica o a través de investigaciones, en la que los investigadores, los etnógrafos, los antropólogos, realizaron trabajos de registro de esas piezas, de ese conocimiento tradicional que averiguaron en sus viajes, y lo registraron en documentos a través de libros y otros materiales, pero en el momento que hicieron eso, expropiaron a la gente de la propiedad intelectual, lo cual es un tema fino. O sea, no hubo dolo, porque tampoco podemos hablar de que los antropólogos estaban pensando en robarles la propiedad intelectual, no era el caso, pero el resultado fue que ellos registraron para sí mismos ese conocimiento, ¿no? Entonces, hay ahorita un tema de cómo volvemos a ingresar a los archivos y recuperamos estos elementos en beneficio de las propias comunidades. Y hacia el futuro, ¿cuáles son las guías y elementos que deberían seguirse para este tipo de elementos? Bueno, les voy a hacer la presentación de la convención. Va muy rápido, pero bueno, como pueden ver, pues ya está. Bueno, aquí menciona, Kaloyan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Kaloyan?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Do you have control of the presentation?
I hope so.
Yes, he does.
Great.
Yes, he does.
Excellent, excellent.
And Janet.
So I will tell you.
Janet said
Thank you.
Also. Yeah.
I will tell you. Bueno, voy a entonces entrar a tema. Hay 3 convenciones que están vinculadas. La de Patrimonio Cultural Material de la Humanidad y Natural, que es del 72, la Convención de Patrimonio Cultural y Material de 2003 y la Convención de Diversidad Cultural de 2005. Les recomiendo mucho que también ingresen a la de 2005 porque tienen apoyos y programas que también complementan el trabajo que hacemos. Bueno, pues ya saben, la diferencia entre patrimonio mundial y patrimonio inmaterial es que una se enfoca en los edificios y en la naturaleza y en los lugares que existen con un sentido cultural, y la otra se enfoca en las personas y en las expresiones culturales, básicamente, y el valor social que tiene. Next, please. Bueno, la de diversidad cultural con la de inmaterial es un poco más fino porque digamos que diversidad cultural se hace como para cubrir elementos que son presentes y no tanto los elementos que tienen un alto contenido o significado de transmisión, sino que es como esta expresión de cultura viva que se va formando derivado de los intercambios culturales. Next, please. La convención tiene el tema, ok. Les voy a pedir, Pepe, y otra vez, denme los nombres, es que estoy de viaje, estoy en ruta, entonces para no estar corriendo, denme chance de convocarlos más tarde. Yo regreso en 4 horas a la Ciudad de México, para no estar así a brinco de mata, porque sí me siento como un poco fuera de cancha desde el teléfono hablándoles. ¿No les molestaría que lo hiciéramos más tarde o bien mañana a la misma hora? Yo estoy disponible. O el lunes, cuando quieran, no tengo ningún problema.
Sí, por mi parte, mañana creo que no sería problema. Si podéis hacer un poquito más tarde, mejor. Y si tiene que ser si tiene que ser hoy más tarde, igual dentro de 4 horas, no podría ser mucho más tarde, por mi parte, ¿eh? Pero vamos, tampoco quiero condicionar el exterior.
Gracias, Pepe. Y, perdón, ¿Colombia?
Es igual, podríamos también participar mañana, no habría ninguna dificultad.
No sean malos. Hagámoslo mañana. Ahorita son para mí las 10 de la mañana. ¿Qué hora es para ti, Pepe?
Para mí son las 5 de la tarde.
Ok. ¿Y para ustedes? En Colombia es la misma hora, ¿verdad?
11 de la mañana.
11, están una hora adelante. ¿Les va bien que nos veamos mañana a las 10, o sea, 11 de Colombia y en Valencia, ¿qué es? ¿4?
Las 5. 5 de la tarde.
¿Les parece bien 10 y 5? 11 y 5, perdón. 11 de Colombia y 5 de Valencia. Por favor, porque si no, me siento presionado, porque también estoy deteniendo a la gente aquí para el viaje. Pero, de verdad, les agradezco y los espero en México y sobre todo, bienvenidos a la convención. Y mañana con mucho gusto les mando el link. No sean malos, me pueden mandar su correo por el chat. Pepe, gracias.
Nada.
Fundación, perfecto. Giovanni, gracias. Perdón, ¿cómo se llama? Es Giovanni y...
María Mercedes.
María Mercedes, muchísimas gracias, María Mercedes. Nos vemos entonces mañana y yo les mando la invitación directamente.
De acuerdo.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Gracias, hasta luego. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego, un gusto.
Gracias, igualmente. So I asked them to see them tomorrow, Loriel, Kaloyan. I will have the meeting tomorrow because I'm on travel and I'm delaying my friend. So see you tomorrow. If you can join me, you will be more than welcome at 11 a.m. Thank you, Kaloyan. I will have it tomorrow ready. Just please send me an email or don't worry, I'll use the Zoom account. I have.
Okay, I will send you.
Thank you very much, Kaloyan. See you tomorrow, my friend.
See you. Bye.
Bye.